Chapter 3981. Zichen's state of mind changed, because he felt that he might have found the way back. Perhaps the exit that had never appeared was at the core of the death storm, but this was very difficult. After all, that was a place that even heavenly souls did not dare to step into. He turned to look at Zichin and said, "The storm should last for a few more days. You should familiarize yourself with the rules of the battlefield. After the storm is over, you can lead a team to train inside." "Lead a team to train?" Zichin asked doubtfully. "Aren't you the team leader? Why don't I join your team? Furthermore, I've helped you recruit a capable assistant." He smiled and said, "There's no need. It's enough that I can protect you all the way. You can walk the rest of the journey yourselves." Zichin understood the meaning behind He's words, and his expression could not help but change. "I can see that the three of you are very extraordinary, especially you, a descender. I'm satisfied that I can protect you all for a while." He looked at the sky outside the window. "The sky is high, and this canyon battlefield will be your starting point. Do your best." He waved his sleeves and began to chase them away. Zichin clasped his fists and left. He was very grateful to He, and also very much admired He's battle prowess. However, Zichin had always been invincible. Now that he had reached the earthly soul realm, he could naturally suppress those of the same level. In fact, He already knew this. Not to mention the others. Just Shanya and Lan Gumeng were two examples. Their innate talents were unbelievably high, and their combat strength was even more unrivaled. If they had not restrained themselves, they would have already caused a commotion. This time, Zichin had broken through, and the three of them had formed a new team. It would definitely be the strongest Earth Soul team here. Furthermore, the two of them could only use their full strength without worry when they were beside Zichin. The canyon battlefield was unusual. If they held back too often, they might fail miserably one day. After leaving He's residence, Zichin inquired about the residences of Shanya and Lan Gumeng. Almost everyone in the inner city knew about this. After telling Zichin, he looked at Zichin strangely as he left. When he discovered that the other party had indeed gone to look for the fairy, the Earth Soul realm expert sneered. That was because there had been a few elites who had gone to look for the fairy, but they had all been blocked outside the door, let alone this nameless pawn. However, after Zichin left, the Earth Soul realm cultivator suddenly realized that something was amiss. Could it be that there was someone in the inner city who didn't know where the two fairies lived? Could he be Zichin? The Earth Soul suddenly came to a realization and immediately walked forward, wanting to see what was going on. In the end, he saw the two fairies appear of their own accord and welcome them inside. It really is him. As a human soul, he entered the Death Canyon with a battle order to save people. Not only did he come back alive, he even broke through to the next realm. The Earth Soul realm expert was extremely shocked. The news about Zichin had already spread. It was said that the other party had even pointed at the Heavenly Soul realm and cursed him. Unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to see it. However, he had seen the scene today with his own eyes, so naturally the news had spread. As expected, the two fairies' attitudes towards Zichin were clearly different. In the room, Zichin first asked about the condition of the two's injuries. Clearly, they were fine. Next, Zichin invited the two to join his team. The two girls were very surprised. They also thought that even if Zichin had a general level force, he would still stay with He. Zichin told them about He's idea, and the two girls fell silent. "Before coming, I already brought someone here. His name is Butterball. That haxy beast you saw is his." Butterball hadn't arrived yet, so Zichin took the initiative to introduce the two girls. After leaving Lan Gumeng's room, Zichin noticed a figure flashing around the corner of the street. After thinking for a moment, he knew what had happened. Just as he walked to the entrance of an alley, a person appeared and blocked Zichin's way. Looking at the person blocking his way, Zichin said indifferently, Why are you always haunting me? What? Are you tired of living? Fighting is not allowed here. Is it not allowed in the canyon? The person who had come was Xingui. Hearing Zi Chen's threat, his expression didn't change much. He said indifferently, I came today to kindly remind you of something. Zi Chen waved his hand and said, I've already received your kindness. You can get lost now. Humph. Xingui snorted coldly and said, The implications of this matter are too great. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't take the initiative to invite trouble. Whether it's Fairy Shanya or Fairy Lan, they're not people you can touch. If you know what's good for you, you'd better leave quickly. Zi Chen suddenly stopped and turned back to look at Xingui. He said, Did those elites send you here? Go back and tell them now. What right do cowardly rats like them have to admire the two fairies? This is different. You're changing the concept. Xingui said, How is it different? Will I die? Zi Chen smiled disdainfully. Then why am I still alive? Oh, and while you're at it, do me a favor. Tell them that I, Zi Chen, am going to form another team, and the two fairies will join. From now on, we will advance and retreat together. With that, Zi Chen left, leaving behind a shocked Xingui. This news was a little too big. Xingui brought the news back. Yao Ye's expression was a little cold. How could this be? What is the relationship between Zi Chen and the two fairies? Butterball packed up and came to the inner city. His residence had already been arranged. But the human souls in charge of his daily life couldn't help but look at Butterball strangely. Zi Chen's residence was next door to Butterball's. An old man came to Zi Chen's door. It was the heavenly soul who had taken away his general token. I have offended you before. I hope you can forgive me. Zi Chen hurriedly apologized. You're quite courageous. I'll return this to you. Right now, you have the qualifications and strength to gain its recognition. The old man looked at Zi Chen and said, However, if you want to form a team, you need at least 5 people. The heavenly soul old man thanked Zi Chen for his invitation and left without entering. At that moment, Butterball just happened to walk out of the door and heard the old man's words. 5 people. Looks like we have to find 3 more, Butterball said as he walked over. Not 3, but 1, Zi Chen said. Shanya and Lan Gumeng will join us. When Butterball heard this, his eyes lit up. Clearly, he didn't expect such a good thing to happen. He gave Zi Chen a thumbs up, looking very impressed. But right now, we're still missing 1 person, Zi Chen said. Do you have a suitable candidate? Butterball thought for a moment and said, There is one, but I don't know if he can come in now. The old man opened his eyes and said, Little brat, the time has come. Hurry up and enter Bloody Battle City. A young man was grabbed by a large hand of energy and thrown into Bloody Battle City. Chapter 3982. The young man hit the ground with his buttocks first. Ouch! Ouch! He seemed to be in great pain. Zi Chen looked at the young man and found him familiar. Only then did he remember that he was the one who led them here. When Butterball saw the young man, he smiled and said, Yun Zhen, it's really you. The young man named Yun Zhen stood up. He looked at Butterball and Zi Chen. It's the 2 of you. Butterball smiled and said, Our team is still missing 1 person. Do you want to join us? Yun Zhen said, Are we missing a captain? Zi Chen said, If you have the strength, we can also be missing a captain. Strength? Are you talking about strength in front of me, Yun Zhen? If it wasn't for the old man suppressing me, I would have been a general in the canyon. Yun Zhen stood up and the power around him began to surge. It seemed to be a strange vibration power. It went from slow to fast and from weak to strong. Another unreasonable guy had appeared. With that, Yun Zhen broke through. The energy that surged around his body had become extremely powerful. Although I haven't mastered the soul shock art, I can barely be a captain in this place. Although he said that he could barely be a captain, his proud expression was not forced at all. Zi Chen patted him on the shoulder and said, "It seems that you are qualified to join our team. Welcome, welcome. From today onwards, I will be your captain. Let me introduce myself. I am Zi Chen." Yun Zhen's prideful expression changed little by little. Every time Zi Chen's palm slammed down, the vibrations on his body would weaken a little. It did not disappear but suppressed, until the last bit of power disappeared. This was a strong suppression. It suppressed Yunjin so much that he could not fight back. Yun Zhen's arrogance, after breaking through, also disappeared with the strong suppression. The team of 5 was formed. The storm still did not dissipate. They still needed to rest. Of course, for Zichen, he needed to cram in the rules and knowledge of this place. The news about Zichen spread like wildfire. This time, Zichen was truly famous. After all, no one dared to enter the storm to save him, including those elites and heavenly souls. Zichen, who was at the human soul realm, had gone in and rescued the girl. However, no one knew what had happened in the canyon. The 2 fairies rarely conversed with outsiders, and it was even more impossible for them to know the inside story. It was also extremely difficult for them to learn something from Wan He. On the other hand, the other 2 people in the team talked about what happened after they woke up. However, they didn't see Zichen or how Zichen saved them. For a moment, Zichen looked even more mysterious. After all, he was the 4th person after Wan He and the 2 fairies. As soon as he advanced, he had the strength of the general realm. Zichen, Butterball, and Yun Zhen were crammed in the knowledge of the Death Canyon. For example, the strange beast that was controlled by the Blood Shadow clan to attack Zichen was called the Valley Demon. It was a very strange beast that could hunt in the periphery of the Death Storm. As he learned more about the canyon, Zichen deeply felt the horror of the canyon. The Valley Demon was the most ordinary kind. It lived in the periphery and hunted with the help of the storm. The Blood Shadow clan had a unique ability to walk in the storm. However, they didn't dare to go too deep. The spirit-devouring beast was also a strange and terrifying creature. Once it encountered the spirit-devouring beast in the storm, it would definitely die because it could devour soul power until the soul power of the soul hunter was exhausted. Zichen was a special case. It seemed that he could ignore the spirit-devouring beast. As for the reason, Zichen didn't know. In the deeper parts, there was a creature called the Soul Saber Beast. It was even more terrifying and powerful. Even heavenly souls had almost no chance of survival if they encountered it. This kind of strange beast had always been a legend. No one had encountered it until now. It was said that in the core area, there was something even more terrifying. However, no one knew what level it was exactly. In short, there was only one thing. Entering the canyon meant death. After seeing the label, Zichen suddenly sympathized with the elites. After all, he had given them a difficult problem and made them make such a choice. It was obviously a little difficult. However, even though he knew that it was full of danger and death, Zichen still wanted to save people in the same situation. Apart from that, Zichen was also concerned about contribution points. That was what he wanted the most when he entered the battlefield. He didn't feel much about the hatred between the Soul Hunter clan and the Spirit Devouring clan. After all, when they first came to Kata, they relied on hunting spirit-devouring beasts to survive. Now his only thought was to accumulate enough contribution points and then go to the mysterious Sky City to exchange for the spirit-devouring technique. Then he would leave and go home. Ever since he was intimidated last time, Yunzhen had become much more obedient. He was also very serious when he was learning. The more they knew about the canyon, the greater the respect in their hearts. They didn't dare to be careless. After 5 days, the storm finally came to an end. It came quickly and left quickly. This made Zichen wonder if someone had stepped into the passage and then closed the door. Or maybe it disappeared on its own because it didn't see anyone leaving and was waiting for the next opening. On this day, Zichen walked out of his room and saw Shan Gui leaving Butterball's residence. He couldn't help but frown. This guy was really haunting him. However, after seeing him, Shan Gui left quickly. Not long after, Butterball walked out of the room. Zichen asked, "He came to find trouble with you?" Butterball said indifferently, "No, he just wants me to change teams." Zichen looked at Butterball. "You agreed? How is that possible? The opportunity to get close to the fairy is right in front of him. Which fool would give it up?" Butterball said immediately. According to Butterball's character, Zichen obviously didn't believe it. "Don't worry. I'm no longer the old Butterball Rue." Butterball said righteously, "I know. You are Butterball." Zichen smiled and was relieved. But then Zichen asked, "That guy won't give up. Will he look for Yunzhen?" Butterball said firmly, "If he dares to look for Yunzhen, Yunzhen will definitely beat him until his mother can't recognize him." Zichen said doubtfully, "Aren't we not allowed to fight here?" Butterball said sarcastically, "It's a metaphor. Do you understand metaphors?" Zichen gave Butterball a chestnut and then turned to leave. He was in a good mood. It seemed that both Butterball and Yunzhen had extraordinary identities. Otherwise, they wouldn't have looked down on an outstanding talent. The storm disappeared and Zichen's team was officially established. On the day of the establishment, Zichen planned to take the team out. Chapter 3983. The road ahead was blocked by a person. It was Yao Yi. He stopped Zichen's group of 5 by himself. Zichen looked at the other party and frowned slightly. It was the first time he traveled with the 2 fairies. Yunzhen wanted to show off and asked directly, "Yao Yi, what do you mean?" Daring to treat Yao Yi like this, it could be seen that Yunzhen was not afraid of the other party and was not afraid of a mortal Tianju behind him. Yao Yi stretched out a finger and said, "I only have one purpose here, only one. Let me join you, and we will hunt together." They were stunned. Obviously, they did not expect that the other party would make such a request. One must know that Yao Yi was one of the 10 heroes, not to mention his combat strength. Just based on his current status, it was much higher than the others. With such a person joining the team, the reputation of Zichen's team would naturally rise. Who knew? In the face of Yao Ye's request, Zichen did not hesitate at all and directly shook his head and said, "No, we have enough people." "What did you say?" Yao Yi suddenly stared at Zichen. His eyes became unfriendly. "We are only a 5-man team. We do not intend to join anyone else." Zichen said again, "Zichen, you are too much." Yao Yi suddenly shouted in exasperation, "Do you know who I am? I am one of the 10 heroes. I am also a person with a general token, and I have a huge team. Now I am willing to give up these identities and condescend to join your team. It's fine if you are not grateful, but you actually dare to refuse?" Zichen waved his hand and was too lazy to pay attention to the other party. He did not have any ill feelings towards this brainless 10 heroes, but he also did not have a good impression of him. Right now, he did not know what the other party was thinking and came here to act crazy. He naturally would not follow suit and did not even have the necessary argument. The few of them walked past Yao Yi, completely ignoring him. Yao Yi was so angry that his chest was heaving up and down. His eyes became cold little by little, as if there was killing intent brewing. With Zichen here, it seemed that he did not get any advantage. If he was not ridiculed, he was ignored. This made him, one of the 10 heroes, unable to accept and accept. At this moment, a ray of light appeared beside Yao Yi. It was an old man, Taoist Tianju. After seeing the old man, Yao Yi was shocked at first. Then he bowed to the old man, and the killing intent in his eyes quickly dissipated. The old man looked at Yao Yi and said, "Silly child, if you're not convinced, you can use your actions to prove yourself. Where is this place? This is the canyon battlefield. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to prove yourself. On this battlefield, The only way to prove yourself is to kill more enemies, not to scheme against your own people. Yao! You looked at the old man and didn't say anything. He didn't dare to say anything. This is the rule. The old man said in a deep voice, generations of us have been able to keep the soul devourers out of the canyon because of our absolute internal unity. We relied on a united front against the outside world. It's not your problem that your temperament is not as good as Zichen's. It's just that you grew up in different environments. I don't think that's your problem. Last time, when you chose to retreat and let Zichen enter the canyon alone, it had to do with your temperament and the overall situation. It had nothing to do with right or wrong. Zichen's choice might not be right, and your choice might not be wrong. But this time, you actually had killing intent in your heart. This is wrong. In the canyon of death, you can't make this kind of mistake again. Otherwise, you'll be punished according to the rules. Yao Ye's heart trembled. He hurriedly said, Yao Ye knows my mistake. Please forgive me, Grandpa. The old man waved his hand and said, since he doesn't want you to join, it means that you're not fated. If you're unwilling, then go and prove yourself. On this battlefield, the only way to prove yourself is through battle achievements. Only by obtaining the recognition of the gate of the sky can you be considered a true powerhouse. Yes, I've learned my lesson. When Yao Yi raised his head again, his eyes had regained their clarity. An unyielding will appeared. At this moment, Yao Yi was like an unsheathed sword, showing off its sharpness. The old man waved his hand. You can scram now. Looking at Yao Ye's back, the old man felt gratified and a little emotional. Yao Yi could only defeat his inner demons because of his attention and guidance. Those who couldn't be taught in time or weren't noticed in advance could only be obliterated once they were discovered. In the Canyon of Death, there were no families or surnames. There was only one kind of people, and that was the soul hunters. Those who dared to cheat or scheme against their comrades would only have one outcome: obliteration. When Zichen stood on the city wall, he immediately became the center of attention because of his position. He was at the head of the 5-man team. Shanya and Lan Gumeng were behind him, while Butterball and Yunjun stood on both sides of the two girls. The 4 of them stood side by side. The Sheji beast followed behind Butterball. Zichen's position was originally Captain Wan He's. Zichen took a deep breath, looked at the canyon in front of him, and said, "It's time to go." Suddenly, footsteps sounded. Another team appeared. The leader was Yao Yi, and behind him were more than 10 people. Different from before, Yao Yi was in high spirits now. He was especially radiant. Zichen could feel this difference, and so could the others. If Yao Yi was gloomy before, like a rainy day, then now he was like a clear sky after the rain, with a rainbow hanging high in the sky. He had a different style. Zichen, do you dare to compete with me? Yao Yi looked at Zichen, his whole body glowing. What are we competing for? Zichen asked. Let's see who can open the gate of the sky first. Yao Yi said, Don't worry, I won't take advantage of you. The gate of the sky opened for me 5 days ago. I'll allow you to be 5 days later than me next time. Zichen said, Forget about the competition, but the current you is much more pleasing to the eye than before. Then Zichen looked at the people behind him and said, I hope you all come back alive. After that, Zichen entered the passage. Shanya and Lan Gumeng followed closely behind, and finally Yunjun and Butterball. Humph. Seeing Zichen leave, Yao Yi snorted. Even if you don't compete, time is still there. If you're 5 days later than me, when the gate of the sky opens next time, then you're not as good as me. After saying that, Yao Yi smiled contentedly and said, Let's go to the battlefield and fight for contribution. Before entering, Yao Yi suddenly said, But life is first. Only by living can one continue to fight. After entering the canyon, the pressure here could no longer affect Zichen, and at the same time, because the storm had disappeared, The entire Scarlet Canyon was very clean. It was as if all the corpses and bloodstains had been washed away by the storm. Zi-Chun remembered Wanhe's words. When the canyon was filled with bones, it would be the end of the battle. Looking at the current situation, it was impossible to fill the canyon. Chapter 3984. In the canyon it was very quiet. The group of 5 walked forward. Because they had done their homework, they knew roughly where to meet the Soul Leader clan. Both sides had formed a tacit agreement to fight in the one-line sky. It was nearly 100 miles away from the city wall and far from the Soul Leader clan. It was a very suitable place to fight. Behind them, Yao Yi and the others caught up. They did not stop at all and ran forward. Before leaving, Yao Yi looked back at Zi-Chun and gave him a provocative look. The soul-devouring clan in the one-line sky also formed small teams to encircle and kill the soul hunters. Life and death happened every day. Even among the 10 prodigies, there were many who never made it back. The one-line sky was very big. Many battles could take place at the same time. Even between 2 battles, they might not know each other's existence. But what Zi-Chun did not expect was that the battlefield was so big, he could not see the end of it. Strange rocks and steep peaks made him feel like he was in the middle of 100,000 mountains. Yao Yi, who had set off before, was nowhere to be found. He could not see anyone here. If there was no flight restriction, it might be better. But now, the entire Death Canyon is a flight restriction. It is impossible to see anyone else. Yunzhen looked at the tall and steep peaks and said, "Perhaps this is where the danger lies." The road was rugged and the mountains were continuous. No one could fly. Under such circumstances, even if they sensed the fluctuations of a battle, the battle would be over by the time they arrived. "Be careful." Zi-Chun entered the one-line sky. The 4 followed, closely behind. This was the main reason why the soul hunters came here in groups. The strength of a group was far greater than the strength of a single person. After entering the one-line sky, Zi-Chun looked at Butterball and asked, "Can you find anything?" Butterball looked at Fatty. As a Xieji beast, it was the natural king of this place. Perhaps it had an unusual perception that could detect the presence of enemies in advance. Fatty shook its head. It was also its first time in the one-line sky. It was not familiar with the environment here. In addition, it was brought up by Butterball and lost a lot of its nature. Therefore, its perception was not very sharp. "Let's go and take a look." According to the news, the soul-devouring clan is adept at concealment. There might be someone watching us in the dark right now. Zi-Chun smiled, looked around, and continued to walk forward. Zi-Chun did not know that there was actually no one watching them. The real danger was in the sky. There was a black dot following them in the sky. In the distance, a troop of the soul-devouring clan was crossing over the mountains. They seemed to have a clear goal in mind. About a quarter of an hour later, they arrived at the peak of a mountain and looked down from afar. There was a soul-hunting team of 3 men and 2 women there. Seeing this, the captain of the soul-devouring clan could not help but light up. Clearly, he was quite satisfied with his target. When he saw the exotic beast clearly, his expression changed. "That's a Xieji beast. I can't believe someone can tame a Xieji beast." At this moment, the 2 extremely popular fairies in the soul hunting race seemed to be less attractive than the Xieji beast. The leader of the soul-devouring clan waved his hand and said, "Go, but don't kill them. Only leave the Heichi beasts behind." To the soul-devouring clan, every soul hunter represented a contribution, and contribution meant better resources. The person beside him asked in a low voice, "Should we wait for the Lord?" The leader pondered for a moment and said, "Leave the 2 women to the Lord. Kill the other 3. At this point, more than 10 people rushed down. Although this place prevented them from flying, they still had the strength of the Earth Soul realm. Their feet touched the ground several times, and they fell from the mountain peak. The mountain rocks rolled, and more than 10 clouds of dust flew up. Each cloud of dust represented a member of the soul-devouring clan. Chen's lips curled into a smile when he saw the soul-devouring clan filled with murderous intent. "Looks like my luck is not bad." A light flashed in his hand, and a long rod appeared in his hand. Lan Gumeng and Shan Yu both took out their soul weapons. The light of power began to rise. Butterball gently patted the Shiji beast's head, indicating that it should follow him. Yun Zhen's vibration force began to be activated. Ripples surged out. "Each of you, one direction." Chen laughed heartily and flew straight ahead. His target was the person who seemed to be the leader of the group. The other 4 people rushed in different directions. "You are courting death." When the leader of the soul-devouring clan saw Chen rushing forward, a cold light flashed in his eyes. A weapon also appeared in his hand. He shouted, "You go and deal with the others. Be careful not to hurt the Shiji beast." Chen smiled. It seemed that the leader of the soul-devouring clan had come for the Shiji beast. However, it made sense. Even in the canyon, it was extremely rare. It was amazing to be able to tame it. The runes on the long rod lit up one after another. The originally black long rod turned golden. The golden light shone, and a strong aura burst out from the long rod. The weapon in front of the leader of the soul-devouring clan had a strong aura as well. The 2 of them came into contact. With a loud bang, a strong shockwave blew sand and stones away. The 2 of them retreated, their robes flapping. Chen took 3 steps back. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He continued to move forward. This time, the power of the long rod was much stronger. The original golden light was now mixed with a few more thunderbolts, making it even more violent. The leader of the soul-devouring clan was surprised. The strength of the opponent was far beyond his expectations. However, he was not afraid. He had killed more than one powerful soul hunter. Moreover, when the 2 of them met, they would fight to the death. When the 2 of them came into contact for the second time, it was as if a thunderclap suddenly exploded in the canyon. The ground shook and violent energy spread out. Opposite Chen, the leader of the soul-devouring clan, was sent flying. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His face was full of shock. This seemingly nameless pawn had used absolute strength to suppress him. How was this possible? Even if he encountered an elite, he was confident that he could withstand a few moves. "Your strength is not bad. Let's go again." Chen laughed. The 2 of them came into contact for the 3rd time. The leader of the soul-devouring clan coughed up blood and was sent flying. He was seriously injured. Looking at the opponent who had not yet landed, Chen's figure immediately disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the leader of the soul-devouring clan as if he had teleported. The long rod in his hand slammed down. Terrifying power poured into the body of the soul-devouring clan's leader. The leader's face was filled with shock as he completely extinguished the opponent's life force. Chapter 3985. In just 4 moves, the leader of the Soul Eater clan died on the spot. He didn't even have the chance to activate his Soul Eater superpower. The other members of the Soul Eater clan looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. They all wanted to retreat. Unexpectedly, a small black beast suddenly appeared behind one of the Soul Eater clan members and opened its mouth. As if a black hole had opened, the Soul Eater clan member felt a devouring force fall on him. In the next moment, the Soul Eater clan member was devoured by the ghost. At the same time, in another direction, the blue dragon beast attacked. The power of time and space appeared alternately. A blue light flashed and pierced through the body of a Soul Eater clan member. The soul weapon in Shan Ya's hand seemed to contain the power to break all techniques. Everywhere it passed, all attacks disappeared. A member of the Soul Eater clan fell in front of her. Yunjin used the soul-shaking spell. Everyone who tried to get close to him would be knocked back by a vibration force. No one could get close to him. Butterball's combat power was also very good. At the same time, he was also taking care of the Sheji beast. In this battle, no one would be able to escape. Zi Chen's figure kept changing, killing the members of the Soul Eater clan who tried to escape. At this time, the black dot was still floating in the air above them, motionless. More than 10 miles away, another Soul Eater clan team appeared. There were 9 people in the team, and the leader was a young man. He walked at the front, and 8 people followed behind him at a moderate pace. "You are too slow." The young man looked back at the 8 people with a hint of dissatisfaction in his eyes. "Young master, it's not that we are slow. It's that you are too fast," a tall Soul Eater clan member said. "The enemy has already appeared. How can I not earn some merits?" The young man said in a deep voice, "The door of darkness hasn't been opened for a long time. Maybe this time I can fight for the identity of the Son of Darkness." The Son of Darkness? Only one is born every 1,000 years. He is the strongest of the strong, the genius of the geniuses. However, with young master's talent, you can compete with them. It is said that after becoming the Son of Darkness, the door to the last level of the door of darkness will open. The secret to becoming the god of darkness lies inside. Since you know about this rumor, you should understand that the young master doesn't have much time left. If he doesn't try to kill a soul hunter, he won't be able to compete with those guys. The youth cupped his fists towards the sky. "God of darkness, I hope that my devil forest can meet one of the top 10 soul hunters. That way, I can earn a lot of contribution points." All of a sudden, a strange sound was heard. This sound could only be heard by the soul-devouring clan. It was some kind of signal. After hearing the content of the voice, Mo Lin's expression changed slightly. The others immediately stopped and became alert. "Lan Mi is dead? Interesting." Mo Lin looked up at the sky and said, "Could it be that the god of darkness really opened his eyes and brought me one of the 10 elites?" "Young master, Lan Mi is not weak. Even if she can't win against one of the top 10 soul hunters, she can still escape." The tall soul hunter from before stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "But he's dead. The person who came is definitely not to be underestimated." Mo Lin smiled faintly and said, "So what? Who am I? I'm Mo Lin. Even if the person who came is one of the top 10 elites, I'll still kill him." Mo Lin patted his chest. "Don't forget who I am and where I came from." At this moment, Mo Lin was filled with powerful and absolute confidence. The tall man immediately retreated, but there was still some worry in his eyes. "Everyone speed up." Mo Lin was the first to turn into a ray of light and chase after them. The tall man behind him paused for a moment, then said to the 7 people behind him via voice transmission, "If anything happens, protect the young master with your life." "Yes." The 7 of them replied in unison, then turned into streams of light and moved forward. Zi Chun killed 4 people and obtained 4 death soul stones. According to Shanya, this was a big harvest. This was because when the 2 of them came to hunt for the first time, they had only obtained 1 death soul stone each. After all, those who could come here were all experts. Whether it was the soul hunters or the soul-devouring clan, they were all extraordinary. It was a pity that they had encountered Zi Chen's special team this time, so they were completely annihilated. Everyone was very satisfied with their current harvest. After this battle, whether it was Butterball or Yunzhen, they were very impressed with Zi Chen's combat strength. At the same time, they knew that the 2 fairies were definitely not just for show. "Should we go back or continue?" Zi Chen turned around and looked at the few of them. In fact, they had just entered this place, so there was no need to return so early. After all, it was their first hunt, and their harvest was huge. It was always right to be careful. Shanya said, "Let's go back. We'll come back after we've refined the death soul stones." Butterball and Yunzhen nodded in agreement. Lan Gumeng naturally had no objections. Their expressions changed. Zichin turned around and said, "It seems that someone doesn't want us to go back so early." Chen saw billowing smoke and dust, like thousands of soldiers and horses galloping. He narrowed his eyes slightly. From the fluctuations in front of him, he sensed that an interesting opponent had arrived. As expected of the Death Canyon, the soul-devouring clan members who came here were all extraordinary. The previous leader's combat strength was extraordinary. He did not expect the second team to appear, and he felt a little threatened. It seems to be someone who is not weaker than the 10 heroes. Lan Gumeng and Shan Yu quickly went forward and came to the left and right sides of Chen. A person appeared in front of the smoke and dust. It was a very young soul-devouring clan member wearing a black robe. The black robe reflected light, and the light of power surged. At this moment, the young man's face was filled with excitement. He flew forward quickly, not caring about the consumption of power. However, when he got closer, the smile on his face froze, and his initial excitement dissipated. Because he did not recognize this person, he looked at the corpse on the ground, and his eyes wandered over it. He did see Lan Mi was dead, but the 10 heroes were not here. This made him very disappointed. Therefore he said to Chen, "Hey, tell me where the 10 heroes who killed Lan Mi went, and I'll leave your corpses intact." Chen was slightly stunned, but he quickly understood what the young man meant. Obviously, the young man had rushed over excitedly because he had determined that one of the 10 heroes was here. As for Lan Mi, he should be the leader who had died earlier. Could it be that only the 10 heroes could kill him? Although Chen understood what the young man meant, he did not understand how the young man knew that Lan Mi was dead and how he found this place. Suddenly, he thought of a possibility. He looked at the young man and said, "Royal, soul-devouring demon clan?" Then he looked up at the sky and saw a black It was a spiritual demon eagle, which only the royal family of the soul-devouring clan could possess. "Looks like I'm lucky to have met a big fish." Chen smiled. Chapter 3986. As long as one reached the Earth Soul realm, one could enter the canyon battlefield to kill enemies. During this period, one could obtain merits by killing enemies. However, there was no specific amount, nor was there a token to display the exact number. Instead, it was calculated by the world itself. Chen did not know whether it was the rules or some other method of calculation. The others did not understand either. In short, as long as one obtained victory, one would naturally obtain merits. Once one's merits reached a certain amount, the gate of heaven would naturally open. Then one could enter and obtain what they wanted. During this period, the amount of merits was directly related to the opponent's strength. For example, if the Soul Eater clan killed one of the top 10, they would obtain a large amount of merits. Similarly, if the Soul Hunters killed a powerful Soul Eater clan member, they would obtain a large amount of merits. The Soul Eater clan was divided into different clans, and the royal clan was a noble existence. Once they were killed, they would obtain a lot of merits. It was almost no less than a Soul Hunter's top 10. Hearing Chen's words, Mo Lin also laughed. "Although you're not an elite, as long as your combat strength is comparable to an elite, my gains will not be small." He pointed at Chen and said, "I, Mo Lin, have just entered the battlefield. Today I'll start with you." As soon as he finished speaking, his figure dissipated like a puff of smoke. Chen sneered and took a step forward. The rocky ground began to shake, and several cracks extended from under his feet. He punched out, and lightning curled around his fist. Just as his fist landed, Mo Lin's figure appeared and he also punched out. The two fists collided. With a loud bang, countless smoke and dust flew up, and the two figures retreated. It's said that the royal clan's strength is very strong. Today I've seen it with my own eyes. Chen's smile did not diminish. It's normal to exchange blows. He quickly rushed forward like a straight beam of light, charging towards Mo Lin. The second time their fists collided, and even more berserk strength surged out. As Mo Lin retreated once more, A strange light flashed in his eyes. It said that you soul hunters have weak bodies, but it seems that you are an exception. Just based on this point alone, you have the qualifications to be called an elite. Changing the topic, Emo Lin coldly said, but just because of this, you deserve to die even more. I really need your contributions. The soul power on Emo Lin's body seemed to be boiling. It kept churning as a powerful aura surged out. The group of soul-devouring clansmen behind him all backed away. Since this person was not the prodigy mentioned in the report, they were relieved. At the same time, their eyes were filled with pity. This was because this person, who was clearly no weaker than a prodigy, had actually encountered the young master. He could only consider himself unlucky. Just as Emo Lin was getting serious, Zichen waved his hand. However, he did not ask the four of them to retreat. Instead, he planned to not let any of them off. The four of them began to move. They spread out and headed for the Soul Leader clan on both sides. Yugui lay on Shanya's shoulder and stared at the enemy. Again, Zichen laughed and flew forward. The power on his fist had the power of vibration. As if he had sensed this strange energy, Yunzhen cast his gaze over and fell into deep thought. The third encounter. At the moment when the energy collided, Zichen's figure flashed and dissolved the power of vibration that came from the front. He flashed to the other side of Emo Lin and threw out another punch. Emo Lin's reaction was also extremely fast. Just as Zichen's punch landed, he quickly threw out a palm and slapped it on Zichen's shoulder. The two of them were hit once each. Neither of them gained the slightest advantage. However, they did not suffer any damage. This was because Zichen's body lit up. The spiritual robe dissolved the power of the punch. The black robe on his opponent's body also dissolved most of the power of vibration. Zichen's figure did not stop. The third punch landed. Then it was another elbow strike. This was a combat technique. After Zichen advanced to the Earth Soul realm, he displayed it again. His attack power had become even stronger. Emo Lin's attainments in the physical body were obviously very impressive. At this moment, as Zichen displayed his combat technique, he was still able to keep up with Zichen's pace, speed, and attack. In the eyes of outsiders, the two of them were like two rays of light that kept colliding. During this time, they did not defend at all. They relied on their spiritual robes to withstand each other's attacks, and then tried to deliver a fatal blow to each other. Yunzhen's attention seemed to be completely attracted by Zichen. Among the crowd, it seemed that he was the only one who could sense the difference in Zichen's power. That kind of power seemed to have the same effect as his soul shock incantation. His soul shock art was only at the entry level and had not been fully mastered. According to his master's original intention, he could only enter Bloody Battle City after he had fully mastered it. But for some reason, his master suddenly changed his mind and threw him in just like that. Do it! At this moment, Zichen's voice suddenly rang out. Shanya and Lan Gumeng, who were already prepared, made their moves. The blue dragon beast quietly revealed its head and waved at the tall man. A strange power fell on the tall man's body. At the same time, there was a restrictive power. The tall man's expression changed greatly. He instantly burst out with all his strength. A terrifying fluctuation directly destroyed the restrictive power. At this moment, Lan Gumeng's soul weapon pierced through his body. Although his heart was pierced, the tall man did not die on the spot. Instead, he coldly stared at Lan Gu. His eyes contained boundless killing intent. Die. He held the soul weapon in his hand and charged forward. His vitality was extremely strong. A strange look appeared in Lan Gumeng's eyes. She did not expect the tall man to still be alive. However, she was not afraid at all. Blue light circulated around her body, and a pair of illusory light wings seemed to appear behind her. The tall man rushed forward and crashed into Lan Gumeng's body. Lan Gumeng's body was like porcelain and directly shattered. The tall man rushed past her. His body stopped a few feet away. There was a thin sword wound between his eyebrows. Blood dripped down from the wound. Lan Gumeng appeared on the other side. Her beautiful face was pale. Life and death were determined in an instant. However, she had consumed a lot of energy and even suffered some light injuries. The opponent was more difficult to deal with and stronger than he had imagined. On the other side, Shanya, who had used her soul weapon, also fought a life and death battle with a member of the Soul Devourer clan. Other than Mo Lin, the second strongest person in the team, was killed in an instant. This made Mo Lin, who was fighting, change his expression. You dare to be distracted in this situation. You are quite bold. Zi Chen's voice rang out. Then a loud bang sounded. A powerful fluctuation spread out and Mo Lin's body flew backward. Zi Chen, who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, looked at Mo Lin, who was flying backward. He smiled and said, "Explode." Chapter 3987. The situation of the battle changed too quickly, so quickly that it exceeded everyone's expectations. No one on the Soul Eater clan's side had expected that the tall man would be defeated and killed in an instant. After all, the other party was able to follow Mo Lin and the royal clan, so his combat strength was extremely strong. Who would have thought that he would be killed by a female soul hunter? This had already shocked them. Who would have thought that Mo Lin would be defeated and spit out blood? One of the Soul Eater clan members turned around and saw Mo Lin fall to the ground. Not only was he spitting out blood, but his other 6 orifices were also bleeding. Moreover, his aura was very chaotic, as if he had been severely injured. "Protect the young master!" The other party roared and turned around to stare at Zi Chen, his eyes filled with the will to die. In the next moment, the soul power on his body seemed to burn, blocking Zi Chen's path. Looking at the other party's determined expression, Zi Chen was a little moved, but he did not hold back. Both sides had different standpoints, and coming here was a life and death struggle. Zi Chen's staff fell, and with a bang, he sent the other party flying. However, the second Soul Eater clan member blocked in front of him, clearly determined to stop Zi Chen. Zi Chen could only continue to attack. In the distance, Mo Lin staggered to his feet. He was bleeding from his 7 orifices, and his expression was extremely ugly. He did not expect to meet a tough opponent on his first time on the battlefield. The other party was clearly not one of the 10 talents, so why was he so powerful? He looked down at the black robe on his body. There was no damage, but how did he get injured? His blood and chi were churning. His injuries were not very serious, at least not as serious as he had imagined. However, just as he was about to fight with Zi Chen again, he realized that his side had lost nearly half of its people. One had to know that the people he brought were all experts. He did not expect that the casualties would be so high in such a short period of time. Count yourself lucky. Next time, I will definitely not let you go. At this moment, Mo Lin's subordinates were still launching suicidal attacks at Zi Chen without fear of death. After leaving behind a ruthless sentence, Mo Lin turned around and left. After Zi Chen sent a member of the Soul Eater clan flying, the golden staff in his hand flew forward like a straight golden battle spear, heading straight for Mo Lin's back. Mo Lin turned around and roared angrily. Countless streams of soul-devouring power gushed out, blocking the front and stopping the staff from moving forward. Boom! The soul-devouring power exploded, and Mo Lin was sent flying backwards. As the golden light faded away, the staff returned. Looking at the fleeing demonic forest, Zi Chen stepped forwards and the ground began to shake. A light flashed in his hand and a mysterious light appeared. "If you can escape from me today, then my name is Zi Chen. Shameless." Before he finished drawing, Zi Chen coldly shouted. This was because a large hand had appeared in the sky and directly grabbed Mo Lin, bringing him into the distance. Based on his perception, He naturally knew that the one who had attacked was a heavenly soul, an existence that should not have appeared here. The giant hand disappeared with the demonic forest. Zi-Chin stood alone with the brush in his hand, his expression fluctuating. He did not expect that such a situation would occur on a battlefield of such a level. If this was not cheating, then what was? He turned his head and looked around. If a heavenly soul had appeared on the soul hunter's side and stopped them slightly, then Mo Lin, who was escaping, would definitely have died here. Unfortunately, no heavenly soul appeared on his side. When Zi-Chin turned his head back unwillingly, the battle had already ended. Other than Mo Lin, who had escaped, the 8 people he had brought with him had all died in battle. What an unlucky year. Let's go back. Zi-Chin waved his hand as if to dispel the bad luck on his body. They quickly cleaned up the battlefield and then returned the way they had come. During this time, Butterball and Yunzhen did not say a word. Through this battle, they also knew that Lan Gumeng and Shan not only had fairy-like appearances, but they also had fairy-like combat strength. At the same time, they also had a deeper understanding of Zi-Chen's combat strength. 1 word. Strong. 2 words. Powerful. It should be known that both Butterball and Yunzhen were very impressive. However, in front of Zi-Chen and the other 2, the 2 of them still felt pressured. However, this was not a bad thing, but a good thing. As the saying goes, with pressure comes motivation. Fatty, how do you feel? Butterball looked at Fatty at the side and said with a smile, "Do you feel proud in such a team?" Of course. Fatty would not reply. Butterball, who was in a good mood, threw a death soul stone and said, "This is for you. You have to become stronger quickly. Otherwise, I won't be able to bring you out in the future." Just as Zi-Chen and the others left the battlefield, a ray of light descended from the sky and landed in the one-line sky. It was an old man. If Zi-Chen was present, he would be able to recognize this old man. It was the one who had stopped him from entering the canyon. The old man looked up at the sky and said with a smile, "Why? You've already been shameless once. Do you want to lose face again?" No one responded in the dark, but the sky was already filled with dark clouds. The old man smiled and said, "Oh, you really dare to come?" His body lit up, and a tyrannical aura surged out. It was as if the light had pierced through the darkness, causing the dark clouds to be unable to advance any further. Zi-Chen and the others, who had already walked a long way, suddenly felt a terrifying pressure coming from behind. They looked back, and it seemed as if the air was filled with a powerful pressure. This caused everyone's hearts to tighten. Zi-Chen, who felt that something was wrong, said, "It's not good to fight again today. Let's go back and drink." They sped up because the pressure behind them was getting stronger and stronger. The dark clouds in the sky began to move forward slowly, trying to break through the dazzling light. The old man stood on the ground, but his figure was incomparably majestic. He emitted endless light, preventing the corrosion of all the darkness in the world. This stalemate lasted for a long time. The dark clouds did not give an inch until a light breeze appeared in the air. The moment the inconspicuous light breeze appeared, the dark clouds suddenly began to retreat, and then disappeared in the blink of an eye. A second, heavenly soul old man walked out from the light breeze. "What happened?" the old man asked. The heavenly soul, who had always represented light, retracted all the light on his body. He did not immediately respond, as if he was thinking about something. Could it be that her identity has been exposed? The old man's expression changed. The heavenly soul shook his head and said no. The old man asked, "No? Then why did the Soul Devourer clan act as if they had gone crazy? Why did they ignore the rules and attack?" The heavenly soul said, "It's Zi-Chen. That kid almost killed a member of the royal family. In the end, a heavenly soul saved him. He seemed to feel the threat of Zi-Chen and wanted to kill him to silence him. That's when I appeared." Old man Qingfeng was startled when he heard the name. "Zi-Chen, that daring little kid?" "Yes, that's him." "That's good. As long as she's not exposed, it's fine. She's our future. Hearing the old man's words, the heavenly soul had a different opinion. As the guardian today, he had seen Zi-Chin attack with his own eyes. He had just entered the Earth Soul stage, but his combat power was not weaker than the 10 heroes. Perhaps he was really the old friend that the old man had mentioned. He was destined to be an extraordinary existence in the future. Chapter 3988. After returning to Bloody Battle City, Zi-Chan continued to refine the Death Soul Stone while the others went back to cultivate. On the battlefield, they could hone their combat strength. Outside of the battlefield, they could improve their combat strength. Life here was actually very boring. It was cultivation, and battle again. After Yao Yu returned, the first thing he did was ask the others if they had seen Zi-Chin. After learning that Zi-Chan had returned early, he was in a good mood. So what if he was smart? So what if he knew how to scheme? This canyon battlefield tested one's combat strength after all. In front of absolute strength, what were schemes and schemes? In a good mood, he treated everyone to a pot of wine. After that, they went their separate ways and agreed to set off in 3 days. With the help of the Heavenly Soul Realm, Mo Lin came to a safe area. He coughed up blood again, and his pale face gradually became rosy. However, immediately after that, his expression turned ugly again. As a member of the royal family, he had been defeated by a nameless nobody. A ray of light appeared. It was the Heavenly Soul Realm who had saved Mo Lin. Mo Lin looked at him and said proudly, "There's no need to say more. I was careless. After returning, I will definitely study the soul-devouring technique more seriously. The next time we meet, it will be his death." The Heavenly Soul Realm disappeared. Mo Lin's eyes were cold as he started to turn back. All the people he had brought were killed. In his eyes, this was a great humiliation. He remembered Zi-Chin and swore to kill him. In Bloody Battle City, Zi-Chen had finished refining the Death Soul Stone and stepped onto the battlefield again. The 5-man team was in high spirits as they destroyed one soul-devouring clan team after another. It was unknown whether it was because of luck or some other reason. But every time Zi-Chin came to the battlefield, he would encounter soul-devouring clan members who would take the initiative to attack them. Everyone's combat strength was improving in an orderly manner. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Zi-Chen's team went out many times. As they did not have a specific number of contributions, no one knew how much they had gained. However, everyone was still alive, which was a great honor. This was because in these 2 months, the number of soul hunters who had died in battle was no less than 2 digits. Yao Ye's team alone had lost 2 generals. 2 months later, Yao Yi returned from the battlefield and saw Zi-Chin. He nodded at Zi-Chin and then left. Compared to 4 months ago, Yao Ye's skin was a lot duller. His aura had also become more stable, and he spoke less. Zi-Chin nodded in response. He was a man of few words. In the past few months, the soul-devouring clan seemed to have gone mad. They had sent many people into the canyon, intending to attack Bloody Battle City. Everyone who entered the canyon felt an enormous pressure. After every battle, everyone was very tired. As for the exact reason, no one knew. The people following behind Yao Yi were all dispirited too. Zi-Chan withdrew his gaze and said, "This time, everyone should rest well for a few days." The few of them nodded. The frequency of battles in the past few months had been very high. Although everyone had grown a lot, they were also very tired. Behind Butterball, Fatty's blood chi soared to the sky. His growth was the most obvious. In the conference hall of the soul-devouring clan, a few heavenly souls sat together and held a meeting. One of the old men said, "Amolang, the latest news has been sent back. The soul hunter that you think is problematic is called Zi-Chin. He has only been in the Earth Soul realm for 4 months. From the news, there is nothing strange about him. This is the news that you, Enxiang, heard?" The heavenly soul named Mo Lang said, "Unhappily, he can defeat Mo Lin." How can he be an ordinary person? En Xiang said, "Our people have carefully investigated Zichen. His only feat is that when he was in the human soul realm, he entered a storm. He was very lucky and didn't die on the spot. He even broke through to the next realm. This is his only feat so far. Oh, there is another news. It is said that there are 2 beautiful soul hunters in his team. He has a good relationship with them. That's all." Mo Lang shook his head and said, "I have seen Zichen before. His combat power is very strong. I don't believe that he is a nameless person." En Xiang laughed. "But that is the truth. He has been in the battlefield for 4 months, but he has not done anything spectacular. His combat power can't even be compared to the 10 heroes. He has not gained the favor of any heavenly soul and has not been accepted as a disciple. Even the gates of the sky have not been opened for him." En Xiang took out a piece of information sealed in a jade slip and said, "The information is here. If you don't believe me, you can take a look." He pushed the information across the smooth table. "Mo Lang, I think you are too serious. The royal family has only lost once. It is not a big deal. To us, victory and defeat are common." Mo Lang frowned and said, "Are you saying that I do not want to admit the royal family's failure and am deliberately making a big fuss?" "I did not say that," En Xiang said. "How dare you? Do you think that the royal family is a sore loser? Zichen is indeed extraordinary. If we do not get rid of him now, he will definitely be a great threat to the spirit devourer race in the future." Seeing that Mo Lang was angry, the heavenly souls who had been silent all this time stepped out to mediate the situation. Mo Lang sat down again and looked at the information. His expression became uglier and uglier. In the end, he slammed the information on the table. "Trash, you are really trash. I can't even find out any information." This time, it was En Xiang's turn to be uglier. After all, he had nurtured those intelligence personnel. Calling them trash was the same as calling him trash. "I am going to use my authority and gather the spirit devourer race to kill Zichen," Mo Lang said in a deep voice. When the people around him heard this, their expressions changed. A heavenly soul who had been the peacemaker earlier said in shock, "Mo Lang, are you serious?" Every heavenly soul had one chance to use their authority. Usually, a heavenly soul would use this authority to deal with a great enemy of the same realm. During this period of time, the spirit devourer race would do their best to help, including all information and combat power support. However, once they used their authority, they would no longer have the authority to use it on the battlefield. This time, Mo Lang was going to use such an important opportunity on an earthly soul. This was one of a kind. "That's right. I am going to use this opportunity," Mo Lang said in a deep voice. "If this opportunity of mine can help the spirit devourer race get rid of a great threat in the future, everything will be worth it." The others still found it hard to believe. Mo Lang stood up and said, "I have made up my mind. You can decide what to do next. I want him to die. He must die." Mo Lang left. There was no room for negotiation. The few of them felt helpless, but they could only do as they were told. At the same time, they rejoiced in their hearts. This was because they were only dealing with an earthly soul and not a heavenly soul. This made things much easier. Chapter 3989. The black staff turned into a stream of light and returned to Zichen's hand. Dozens of feet away, a soul devourer who was about to escape fell to the ground, motionless. Yunzhen looked up at the sky and sneered, "How dare you come again?" A ray of white light soared into the sky like an arrow and shot towards the black. It was Yunzhen's pet beast. On the second trip after encountering the royals, Yunzhen had brought a pet beast with him. No one knew where he got it from, but it was specifically used to deal with the surveillance from the sky. After quickly cleaning up the battlefield, Zichen looked at the mountains in front of him with hesitation. Butterball approached and asked, "Should we go deeper?" Before Zi-Chin could answer, Shanya said, "We've gained a lot today. Let's go back." Zi-Chin nodded. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but every time he gazed into the depths, he always felt a sense of danger. It was as if there was a powerful and terrifying, fierce beast hiding there, waiting for him to go over and then devour him in one gulp. He turned around, planning to leave. But as soon as he turned around, he saw someone standing in the sky. It was a woman hidden in the clouds. He could vaguely see her graceful figure. Zi-Chin couldn't see the woman's face, but he could feel that she was looking at him. Their eyes met. Seeing Zi-Chin suddenly stop, the few of them were stunned. Shanya asked, "What's wrong?" Zi-Chin didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the sky and asked, "Who are you?" The other four were instantly on guard, even though they didn't notice anything unusual. The woman in the clouds seemed to have a fluctuation in her eyes. The next moment, she dissipated. The other party's body disappeared like clouds and mist. It was also like an illusory mirage. What's wrong? There was nothing unusual around them. Lan Gumeng looked at Zi-Chin in surprise. Zi-Chin pointed to the sky and said, "There was someone standing there just now." Heavenly Soul? In this battlefield, Earth souls were suppressed by the rules and couldn't fly at all. As for Heavenly Souls, they could temporarily fly, but it wouldn't last for long. "I don't know. He doesn't look old." Zi-Chin glanced at the two girls. "They seem to be similar to you, but I couldn't see their faces clearly. They disappeared very quickly." The situation was so strange that Zi-Chin had an extremely bad feeling in his heart. He decided to go back as soon as possible. Recently, the canyon seemed to be getting more and more chaotic. The number of soul-devouring clan members was constantly increasing, and the casualties were also increasing. On the way back, Zi-Chin saw Wanhee. After greeting him, the five of them returned to Bloody War City. "Zi-Chin!" Suddenly, an excited voice rang out. Zi-Chin turned around and saw Yao Yi. The other party's exhaustion was swept away as he looked at him excitedly and said, "I've received the recognition of the Gate of the Sky. What about you?" Zi-Chin's eyes flashed with surprise. There was no pattern to the opening of the Sky Gate. It might open one day, or it might never open. Zi-Chin's group of 5 had entered the battlefield many times, but they had never opened it before. This included Lan Gumeng and Shanya, who had entered the battlefield earlier. "Then, congratulations." Zi-Chin smiled faintly and said sincerely, "There's a competition between us," Yao Yi said. "I'll wait for you for 7 more days. If you still can't open the Gate of the Sky, then you're not as good as me. Up to you." Zi-Chin walked forward. "There are only 7 days left. Don't you need to hurry?" Yao Yi asked as he looked at Zi-Chin, who was about to leave the city. "There's no hurry." Zi-Chin was very curious about the Gate of the Sky, but it was only curiosity. This was because he didn't lack cultivation techniques, cultivation resources, and soul weapons. Of course, the reason why he was so calm was because Zi-Chin knew that the Gate of the Sky was divided into different levels. The Gate of the Sky opened by the Earth Soul stage and the Gate of the Sky opened by the Heavenly Soul stage were completely different. According to Zi-Chin's estimation, what he wanted might not be in the Gate of the Sky of this level. In front of an abyss, an old man stood. The old man stared at the abyss in front of him with a deep gaze. A woman in green appeared from behind and walked towards the old man. The old man stared at the abyss and said without turning his head, "You went to see him?" The woman in green stood beside the old man and nodded lightly. "I went to take a look, but he also noticed me." "Why is that?" The old man said, "Maybe it's a coincidence." The woman looked at the old man in disbelief. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? "Master, do you really believe that he can succeed?" the woman asked. The old man retracted his gaze from the abyss and looked at the woman in green, maybe. The old man wasn't sure. The woman didn't understand. "If that's the case, why do you insist on choosing him? If you let little Shin go with me, won't the chances of success be higher? When I first saw him, I felt a bit of affinity with him. The old man said, "Maybe it's best for the two of you to go in." The woman in green found that she couldn't see through her master anymore. Or rather, her master had a strong obsession with this matter. "Since you've already decided on him, why don't you just tell him the truth? Why do you want him to continue without knowing anything?" The woman in green hesitated for a moment and said, "And this time he seems to be in danger." The old man looked up at the sky and said, "Then let's leave it to fate. If he can't rely on his own strength to reach here, then forget it. There's still a small chance of success." The woman in green stared at the abyss in front of her and muttered, "No matter who goes in, I hope he can succeed." The old man was silent. For a long time he didn't say anything. There was no free time. After returning, Zichen cultivated and worked hard to strengthen himself. During this period of time, he had made great progress. His combat strength was several times stronger than when he first broke through. 3 days later, Zichen stretched and walked out of his room. He didn't have many death soul stones left. It was time to enter the canyon battlefield again. Zichen went to call Butterball and Yunjun, who lived next door. Next, the three of them would look for Shanya and Lan Gumeng and enter the canyon together. Suddenly, a piercing sound came from the city wall. It was an urgent summons, as if something big was about to happen. Under this summons, everyone had to rush to the city wall. The three of them looked at each other and immediately rushed to the city wall. When they reached the city wall, there were already many earth souls gathered there. There were even a few heavenly souls. Zichen saw Yao Yi in the crowd. Among these people, he seemed to be more familiar with Yao Yi, so he went up to ask about the situation. "There's news from the front. The soul devourers seem to have all moved out. They've rushed into the one-line sky and surrounded many of our teams," said Yao Yi. "Many teams." Zichen was stunned. He looked around but didn't see Wan He in the crowd. Chapter 3990. Zichen had always admired Wan He as if he was a hero. When they were in the most danger, Wan He appeared with golden saber and saved them with just 3 sabers. Wan He kept using saber intent to help the 3 of them along the way. Lan Gumeng and Shanya were able to break through quickly. Besides their own potential, Wan He's saber intent also played a role. Although they were in the same realm, Zichen still admired Wan He. If something happened to Wan He this time, Zichen did not dare to think about the consequences. He could only hope for the best, and that Wan He would be fine. At this moment, someone ran over from the other side of the city wall. It was Shen Gui. He came to Yao Yi and said, "We have accurate information about 2 teams. Du Yi, the 9th of the 10 heroes, is inside." Zichen looked at Shen Gui and asked, "What about the 2nd team?" Shen Gui hesitated. Zichen's expression changed. He urged, "Tell me, who's in the 2nd team?" Yao Yi said unhappily, "Don't dawdle. Tell me." "It's Captain Golden Saber." Shen Gui said. Zichen heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it wasn't Wan He. But the next moment his expression changed. Wasn't Wan He's title Golden Saber? "It's Golden Saber, Wan He?" Zichen's voice changed. Shen Gui nodded. Zichen's expression immediately turned ugly. "Zichen." Shanya's voice came from behind. She and Lan Gumeng had arrived in time. She asked what happened. Zichen said, "The soul devourers have all moved out. Wan He is surrounded." The 2 girls' faces immediately turned pale. Shen Gui shook his head and sighed. "It said that many teams are surrounded, but only Du Yi and Captain Golden Saber have sent out distress signals." When he sent out a distress signal, Lan Gumeng's expression changed again. Then she looked at Zichen. After entering the canyon, in addition to life and death battles, everyone was equipped with a distress signal. When danger occurred, they could call for help from the nearest ally. Yao Yi clenched his teeth and said, "That Damned, soul-devouring clan. How dare they disregard the rules and mobilize their entire army? Shanya was also looking at Zichen. Butterball and Yunjun were the same. Zichen took a deep breath before he turned around and glanced at Fatty and Yunjun. You two stay here and wait for orders. After saying that, he glanced at Shanya and Lan Gumeng. The two girls looked very determined. Zichen said, "Let's go." The two girls immediately followed. Yao Yi was slightly taken aback. Shin Gui's expression changed. The three of them swaggered off. "Wait," Butterball's voice rang out. "You can't leave us behind." "This has nothing to do with you," Zichen said without looking back. "When he is our friend, we have to save him. You guys continue to stay here and wait for us to come back." "Bullsh *T, he's our comrade," Yunjun said in dissatisfaction. "Moreover, we're a team. If the two of us are missing, the three of you will be reduced by at least half. At that time, you won't be saving him. You'll be sending yourself to death." "Butterball." "Coming." Butterball followed. Behind him, a voice rumbled, and a murderous aura swept over. It was Fatty who had caught up in time. Zichen glanced at the two of them. The two of them came forward and stood behind Zichen. "We're a team. We can't lose anyone," Yunjin said in a low voice. "Even if we die, we'll die together." At this moment, the surroundings were filled with righteous indignation. Many Earth souls were furious. "Where are you guys going?" A heavenly soul came forward and looked at Zichen. "Saving people." Zichen's answer was very simple. The heavenly soul said, "We can save people, but you have to listen to the arrangements." "We're discussing this matter," however, before the heavenly soul could finish speaking. Zichen's figure entered the passage. "By the time you're done with your discussion, it'll be too late." Lan Gumeng, Shanya, Butterball, and Yunjun also rushed in. In front of everyone's eyes, 5 streaks of smoke and dust rolled into the depths of the canyon. This scene seemed to have ignited the courage of all the Earth souls. One after another, they jumped into the passage. "Nonsense, isn't this nonsense?" The heavenly soul stood on the city wall, flustered and exasperated. "At this moment, if we wait for you to plan everything, it'll be too late." Yao Yi glanced at his grandfather and said, "This kind of thing can only be solved with strength." He jumped in. The others followed suit. On the city wall, rays of light lit up one after another, and one Earth soul after another entered. The situation was somewhat out of control. Even the heavenly souls seemed to be unable to suppress it. At this moment, a blue light appeared. It was the mysterious old man who had appeared previously. He looked at the smoke and dust in the canyon and said, "All Earth souls, listen up. Quickly enter the canyon and fight." Clearly, many Earth souls did not recognize this blue-robed old man. However, after he finished speaking, rays of light lit up around them. All the passages into the canyon had been opened. The heavenly souls did not stop him. The blue-robed old man continued, "All heavenly souls, gather and follow me into the canyon. This might be a decisive battle." In Bloody Battle City, when the heavenly souls heard this, their expressions could not help but change. A decisive battle was about to begin like this? Why was there no warning at all? Was this not too hasty? However, in the next moment, the old man had already jumped in, taking the lead. "Prepare to fight to the death." The blue-robed old man had already left, but his voice still echoed in the sky above Bloody Battle City. The other heavenly souls did not hesitate and entered the canyon one after another. A decisive battle. Spiritual Master Tianju sighed and then leaped into the canyon. The old man who had been guarding the gate stood up for the first time. His gaze became sharp like an unsheathed sword. "Yunjin, you must not die. From now on, the task of guarding this place will be handed over to you. You are more suitable to guard the gate than I am." The old man disappeared, and in the next moment he was in the canyon. At the same time, in another direction, a plump old man appeared. After exchanging glances with the old man guarding the gate, he charged into the canyon. He was Butterball's master, a guardian of Bloody Battle City. Butterball was the successor he had painstakingly found and nurtured. On this day, all the Earth souls and heavenly souls in Bloody Battle City were mobilized and entered the one-line sky. A great battle suddenly broke out. Without warning, in this decisive battle, the one who charged at the forefront was a small team of 5. The leader was Zi-Chin. Chapter 3991. Within the black clouds, there was a strange devouring power that seemed to want to devour everyone's soul power. There was a flash of light in front of Zi-Chin. It was a holy talisman that spread out in all directions. Boom! 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 The holy talisman exploded and countless lightning bolts scattered in all directions, crushing all the black clouds and sending the nearby soul-devouring clan flying. Let's go! Zi-Chin did not look at the soul-devouring clan blocking the way. Like a sharp sword, he tore a hole in the endless darkness. He led the team and rushed into the depths. One-line sky. He had arrived. Behind Zi-Chin, the other soul hunters arrived in small teams. Like a torrent of light, they rushed into the darkness and tore it apart. A great battle broke out. Yu Gui! Zi-Chin shouted. Yu Gui jumped onto Zi-Chen's shoulder and began to sense Wan He's location. It naturally knew Wan He's aura, but this time it seemed to be disturbed by an inexplicable energy. Yu Gui could not sense Wan He's location immediately. Zi-Chin had no choice but to keep charging forward. His eyes were firm and his steps were swift. Only by constantly moving forward and going deeper could he possibly know Wan He's location. Around him, holy talismans poured out as if they were free. They shone brilliantly and roared in all directions. There was no need for them to make a move. Countless holy talismans opened up a straight path for everyone. The reason why they used holy talismans was to accumulate power. This was also the first time that Butterball and Yunjin saw Zi-Chen's holy talismans. They were extremely shocked. After moving forward for about 10 miles, Yu Gui finally sensed Wan He's aura. It pointed in a direction and made a strange sound. Let's go! Zi-Chin shouted. A holy talisman brush appeared in his hand, and he drew a talisman in the air. The soul power between heaven and earth began to flow rapidly. A Yu Gui tiger with wings appeared. It was like a mountain peak. Its tall body landed in the countless black clouds. The next moment, the tiger's roar shook the sky and tore through the darkness, opening up a path for Zi-Chin. The 5 of them followed behind Yohu and headed into the depths until they arrived at the one-line sky. During this time, no life and death battles broke out. None of the soul-devouring clan members that Yohu had sent flying had any intention of stopping them. They allowed them to go deeper. It didn't take long before Zi-Chin arrived at the place he didn't dare to set foot in before. This time, he didn't hesitate and rushed in directly. Within the countless black clouds in the sky, a heavenly soul could not help but smile cruelly when he saw the scene below. Today is the day you die. As he prepared to attack, the aura of a heavenly soul began to circulate. At this moment, a beam of light appeared in the sky, blocking the other party's path. You want to fight? I'll accompany you. A heavenly soul from the Soul Hunting Clan charged towards the heavenly soul from the Soul Gobbling Clan. Below, before Zi-Chin could find Wan He, the battle between the heavenly souls in the sky had already erupted. Amidst the rolling black clouds, a giant beast suddenly appeared in front of the dim Yohu. It slapped down with its claw, and a tyrannical power surged. With a loud bang, Yohu, who had exhausted a lot of his energy, exploded. The giant beast opened its mouth and inhaled. The energy from Yohu's exploding body was swallowed into its stomach. This was a soul-devouring beast that had appeared after using a spell. It blocked the path of Zi-Chin and the others. This was also the first powerful obstacle that they had encountered along the way. Obviously, this person was not weak. A powerful aura surged in the surroundings as the soul-devouring beast charged forward. A long staff appeared in Zichen's hand. As he poured power into it, the patterns on it lit up one after another. Until now, Zichen had not completely activated the patterns on the staff. Golden light illuminated the surroundings, and the waves formed dispersed the black fog nearby. Boom! The ground shook and several cracks appeared. Zichen stepped on the ground, and his body shot towards the soul-devouring beast like an arrow. Like a golden arrow, he landed on the soul-devouring beast's body, and countless golden lights exploded. The golden light pierced through the soul-devouring beast's body and fell into the distance. The soul-devouring beast's body collapsed with a loud bang. Behind it, an Earth Soul Realm warrior from the soul-devouring clan suddenly turned pale. The next moment he spat out blood. "My lord!" The few people standing beside him were shocked. Oh no! The soul-devouring clan warrior who had spat out blood suddenly changed his expression. He cried out, "Retreat, retreat quickly! You think you can leave?" A mocking voice suddenly came from the front. The black fog in front of them began to roll violently. A golden light broke through the fog and arrived in front of the leader. Countless golden lights bloomed, and the surrounding darkness was completely dispelled. A shadow of a staff descended from the sky and landed on the leader of the soul-devouring clan. The leader sensed that something was wrong. He took a few steps back and shouted loudly. A black protective light appeared in front of him. The moment the light appeared, several patterns lit up on it. This was the protection of the soul-devouring clan, and it made the leader feel slightly relieved. At this moment, the shadow of the staff landed with a loud bang. The black protective light collapsed directly, and the shadow of the staff did not weaken as it landed on the leader's body. A clear crack extended for dozens of feet, and clouds of dust rose from it. When the other retreating members of the soul-devouring clan saw this, there was a hint of fear in their eyes. To be able to kill their lord with one strike, this combat power was too terrifying. They retreated even faster. A blue light suddenly flew out from the black fog. Like a blue lightning bolt, it landed on a member of the soul-devouring clan. The retreating body stopped and fell to the ground. He had lost his life. In another direction, the soul weapon formed by the miracle stone flew towards another member of the soul-devouring clan. It instantly destroyed the other party's protection and pierced through it. Butterball and Yunjun followed closely behind. After breaking through the black fog, they charged towards the enemies. With the soul-devouring clan blocking their way, they could no longer conserve their strength. They could only fight their way forward. Zichen swung the staff in his hand. A golden light streaked across the sky, and a frightened member of the soul-devouring clan was sent flying. Yugue turned into a stream of light and came close to the other party. He opened his mouth like a black hole opening and swallowed the other party. Zichen put away the staff and continued forward. Butterball cleaned up the battlefield as fast as he could, and then followed closely behind. Zichen was at the front, opening a path with the staff. This time he was not simply repelling the enemies but killing them. He kept killing until there were no more enemies in front of him. It was the first time Yunjin felt such a strong killing intent from Zichen. At the same time, he mourned for the members of the soul-devouring clan who were blocking their way. Because Zichen, who had used all his strength, was not someone they could resist. In fact, Yunjin had never understood why Zichen did not enter the 10 heroes with his combat power. This should not be the case. As for why Shanya and Lan Gumeng did not enter the 10 heroes, he could vaguely guess the reason. However, Zichen did not enter the 10 heroes as well. This was obviously not normal. Could it be that those heavenly souls were hiding something? Boom! 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 Powerful energy kept shaking. Zichin, who was moving forward, was eliminating the strongest enemies along the way. After eliminating 4 groups of leaders who blocked their way, they finally arrived at the place where he was trapped. Chapter 3992. He half knelt on the ground. There were dozens of wounds on his body, blood dripping from them. Beside him were 2 corpses. 2 others were heavily injured and had lost their ability to fight. The golden saber was stabbed into the ground beside him. Its luster had dimmed significantly. Around him were more than 20 soul-devouring clan corpses. They were all incomplete. In the distance, there were dozens of soul-devouring clan experts. They held soul weapons and looked at He in fear. He's killing power was too terrifying. Even though they were used to seeing death, they were still terrified. The golden light illuminated the area. Zichin rushed in and landed on the ground. The soul-devouring clan members, who were extremely cautious because of He's strength, were all shocked. They retreated subconsciously. Zichin held the staff and immediately rushed forward. "How are you?" He knew who it was from the voice. He said without turning his head, "Why are you here?" Zichin said, "We heard your call for help and immediately rushed over." At this time, the black fog that had healed was torn apart by a strange force again. Lan Gumeng and the others arrived. "We didn't call for help," he said in a low voice. "What?" Zichen's expression changed. Shanya and Lan Gumeng had already arrived. They shielded the injured He behind them. Butterball and Yunzhen went to check on the others. 2 of them were confirmed dead. The other 2 were heavily injured. The 2 immediately took out their pills and began treating them. He said, "We didn't call for help. You shouldn't have come." After gathering some strength, he stood up. He looked ahead and said, "We've been surrounded for quite some time. They deliberately surrounded us, but didn't kill us. That's why we managed to hold on until now. I suspect they have other motives. That's why we didn't call for help." Behind he, an injured Earth Soul Realm expert, said weakly, "We originally planned to call for help, but the leader saw that they seemed to have other motives. So we gave up. We planned to fight them to the death here. They didn't call for help." But Shan Gui clearly said that he and Du Yi's team had sent out a call for help. Did Du Yi see them? So when you asked for help, you said that as well. Zichen's heart skipped a beat as he made this guess. However, Zichin quickly dispelled this idea. If Du Yi saw he would definitely think of a way to meet up with he in this kind of crisis, instead of fighting separately after calling for help. This is a trap. You shouldn't have come, he said again. Zichen's expression changed, but he didn't turn around to look at Lan Gumeng. If this was a trap, then the target might be the divine soul goddess Lan Gumeng. However, Lan Gumeng's identity was only known to a few heavenly souls. Even earthly souls were not aware of it. So how did the soul-devouring clan find out? Someone in the heavenly soul realm had exposed Lan Gumeng's identity? A burst of laughter suddenly rang out as a person walked out from the black fog. "He, you're very smart. You've guessed our thoughts, but so what? Didn't you all fall for it?" Seeing the person in front of him, Zichan was a little surprised. "It's you." It was the person from the royal family who had been rescued by the heavenly soul realm from the soul-devouring clan. He didn't expect him to come this time. "Zichin, today is the day you die." Emo Lin said coldly, "I, Emo Lin, will kill you with my own hands." Zichin said without batting an eyelid, "You've put on such a big show just to deal with me. Is this a big show?" Emo Lin smiled disdainfully and said, "This is just a training for our soul-devouring clan. Of course, we'll kill you along the way." Zichin glanced at He, and He also glanced at Zichin. All words were spoken in silence. The 2 of them had reached a tacit understanding when they looked at each other. Zichin looked around and said, "You probably don't have the guts to scheme against me. Get your people to come out. I'll kill every one of them I see today." Mo Lin sneered and said, "With just you." Zi Chen's figure suddenly dissipated, disappearing like a cloud. "You're courting death." The smile on Mo Lin's face disappeared, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He struck out with his palm, and a strong soul-devouring power surged out. A soul-devouring beast's head appeared out of thin air and swallowed forward. Zi Chen's figure appeared, and he was right where the soul-devouring beast's head was. "You're still so weak." Zi Chen smiled coldly and punched out. Lightning shot out from his fist and instantly shattered the beast's head. Mo Lin's figure had already retreated a few feet. His eyes were extremely cold, and his hands were quickly forming seals. Waves of soul-devouring power gathered around him, and a violent aura emerged. This aura made Zi Chen feel danger. He didn't dare to be careless. The black rod in his hand appeared again, and his power gathered. Golden light began to swirl around it. Demon King technique. As the seals fell, Mo Lin's aura had changed greatly. He was like a demon king from another world, and he launched a killing move at Zi Chen. The black fog in the sky began to roll violently, and a huge palm print fell from the sky, carrying a terrifying aura. The pressure around him instantly increased, and Zi Chen's movements were affected to a certain extent. He narrowed his eyes. Compared to last time, Mo Lin's power was much stronger this time. However, in the next moment, an even more powerful aura surged around him. His figure soared into the sky, and his rod swept toward the palm print. In the sky, the two types of energy collided violently, and the terrifying giant hand was torn apart by the long rod. Then a golden staff shadow flashed in the sky and came down. Mo Lin disappeared from where he had been standing. A deep crack extended into the distance where he had been standing, all the way to his feet. Sensing the energy surging in the crack, Mo Lin's lips curled into a mocking smile. It seemed that as long as he didn't let his opponent close the distance, Zi Chen's combat power was nothing special. He thought that he had found Zi Chen's weakness, and he began to use the powerful techniques of the soul-devouring clan from afar. His techniques couldn't destroy Zi Chen, but at the same time, Zi Chen couldn't threaten him. The two of them were evenly matched. Mo Lin sneered and said, "It seems that you're only SOSO." Behind him, when he saw this scene and his eyes flashed slightly, he said in a deep voice, "Attack, kill everyone." After saying this, when his eyes had a solemn and stirring look because he had already made up his mind, Shanya and Lan Gumeng were still unaware, and they charged toward the other members of the soul-devouring clan. "Time for you to die." At the same time, Zi Chen's eyes became extremely cold. The long rod in his hand, which had turned golden, began to tremble violently, and a violent aura surged out. He swung his rod down. An arc-shaped rod shadow appeared in the sky. With a loud bang, Mo Lin's body flew backward. Chapter 3993. The energy behind them was vibrating. Butterball and the others were attacking. When he had recovered some of his strength and killed a member of the Soul Eater clan with one slash, he looked at the two women who were fighting hard and transmitted his voice. "Save some of your strength. Don't let the enemy see through you. Next, we have to break through." The two women knew what to do, and each restrained a part of their strength. The blue dragon beast followed Lan Gumeng and did not attack. The ghost demon followed Shanya and would occasionally devour a member of the Soul Eater clan. Butterball also restrained a part of his strength when fighting Yunzhen. In the field, everyone was conserving their strength in preparation for the next breakthrough. Only Zi Chen was using his full strength. The pale-faced Mo Lin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes became colder. "Good, I want to see how strong you are." Soul force surged out from his body, burning like flames. The surrounding temperature suddenly rose, and the black fog that was originally surging in the surroundings seemed to burn at this moment. Mo Lin's facial features were distorted, and his aura became more tyrannical and violent. Soul Flame. His voice was cold and deep, and his eyes flashed with cold, killing intent. Those burning flames converged in front of him and seemed to turn into a terrifying soul flame. Everyone in the field felt their souls throbbing. Even though they were far away, Butterball and Yunjan's expressions changed because that flame seemed to have a strange power to attract souls. Their soul power seemed to be sucked away. They felt this way even though they were dozens of feet away. Then, what kind of feeling did Zichen have? Zichen's soul was also affected, but it was not as dangerous as everyone felt. He raised the long staff in his hand and smashed down. No matter how many magical skills you have, I, Zichen, only have one staff. Between heaven and earth, the staff cut through the sky and golden light filled the world. The flames exploded and countless flames scattered in all directions and extinguished in the sky. Mo Lin fell in the distance, and his aura became weak. He raised his head and looked at Zichen, his eyes full of disbelief. He, a member of the royal family, had been defeated again, and so thoroughly. Zichen's eyes flashed with killing intent. I'll send you on your way. The golden staff left his hand and flew towards the royal family. This time it was filled with killing intent. A ray of light suddenly descended from the sky like a black shield, blocking the staff. Clang! With a resounding clang, the long rod returned to Zichen's hand in midair. 5 people appeared in the sky. The man in the lead waved his hand and withdrew a ray of light. It was that ray of light that had blocked Zichen's attack. It's Mo Wuling. Behind him, Butterball's eyes couldn't help but change when he saw the man's appearance. He cried out involuntarily. The Soul Hunters had 10 heroes, and so did the Soul-Devouring clan. They were all extremely famous existences in their respective regions. Both sides knew each other very well and had their own portraits. Zichen's eyes also changed. He had naturally heard of the 10 heroes, Mo Wuling's name. It was said that he was on the same level as Yao Yi and was ranked 10th. This was knowledge that everyone who entered the battlefield had to know. Once they encountered one of the 10 heroes, they had to run. If they couldn't run, it would be a sign of death. Zichen looked up at the sky and said, "The 10 heroes are all here. It's a pity that you're ranked at the bottom. I wonder if the other 10 heroes will appear after I kill the 2 of you." Mo Wuling snorted and said, "You're not famous, but you talk big. I'd like to see what you're capable of. The Soul Hunter that we've used the entire clan's strength to deal with." The entire clan's strength? I'm quite honored. Since you want to see it, I'll show you the true strength of the Soul Hunter clan. As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen rushed forward with his staff. When Mo Wuling saw this, he shouted, "Don't let him get close." Unfortunately, it was too late. Zichen closed in an instant and swung his staff down forcefully. With a loud boom, Mo Wuling was sent flying. While he was in midair, he started coughing up blood. Mo Wuling's pale face was filled with shock as he landed firmly on the ground. His opponent's strength was ridiculously strong. Even though he had sensed his opponent's movements in advance, he still couldn't block the impact of that terrifying strength. At this moment, Mo Wuling's vision blurred again. A staff shadow appeared for the second time. He shouted loudly and activated the black robe on his body, creating a protective light. Pum! The protective light shattered in an instant. Mo Wuling's body smashed into the ground in the distance. His black robes were now riddled with cracks. At this moment, Zichen didn't have the slightest intention of holding back. Every strike of his staff contained his full strength. In the face of absolute strength, even his opponent's robe couldn't block these attacks. Zichen's body flashed again. However, this time he didn't come into contact with Mo Wuling. When he was in midair, the experts who came with Mo Wuling had already blocked Zichen's path. There was a brief collision in the sky. Zichen landed on the ground, and the 4 people were sent flying. The 4 people who tried to stop Zichen were all injured. 1 from the royal family, 1 from the 10 talents. It seems like I've earned a lot of merits this time. Perhaps the gate of heaven will open because of this. Zichen smiled coldly and swung his staff down with all his might. The staff shadow moved forward. Mo Wu Ling took out his guardian again. However, after that strike, Zichen took out a sacred talisman brush and drew a line in front of him. A mark appeared in the sky. It was completely formed by lightning, and it seemed to split the sky into 2. The staff shattered Mo Wu Ling's sole weapon defense, then turned back. The light approached, almost following the attack of the staff. In an instant, it swept past Mo Wu Ling's body. The shock in Mo Wu Ling's eyes froze. His life was extinguished and he died. One of the 10 talents of the Soul Devourer clan died at the hands of Zichen. Mo Lin, who had already retreated in another direction, was filled with fear. Zichen's previous attack was targeted at the 2 of them. If he hadn't used a life-saving technique at the critical moment, he might have been split in 2 as well. At this moment, he truly felt Zichen's strength. Fear filled his heart. Zichen glanced at Mo Lin. He didn't continue to attack. Instead, he said, "Retreat." Now that they had found their target, it was wisest to retreat. Hearing Zichen's words, everyone retreated without hesitation. "You can't leave." A cold voice sounded from the sky. Another member of the Soul Devourer clan appeared. Another one of the 10 talents. "Zichen, retreat." Butterball shouted anxiously. Chapter 3994. Some of the soul-devouring clan members surrounded Zichen, while the rest charged toward Butterball and the others. "Zichen!" Shania exclaimed and wanted to rush over. One he said in a low voice, "Let's get rid of the enemy first." At the same time, when he transmitted his voice again, "You don't have to worry about Zichen's life. Preserve your strength when you attack, and try to break out of the encirclement in one go." Clearly, when he was worried that Shania and Lan Gumeng would risk everything to save Zichen. The 2 girls were still killing the enemy, but they were not retreating. Instead, they were moving forward to meet up with Zichen. "You 2 retreat first. I'll cover you." Zichen's voice rang out. "I've already killed one of the 10 heroes. I don't mind killing 1 more." As if to prove Zichen's words, he swept his long staff, and the soul-devouring clan members surrounding him were all sent flying. Then, Zichen attacked the 10 heroes with all his might. The 10 heroes coughed up blood and were sent flying. "Retreat quickly. I'll catch up with you soon." Before the soul-devouring clan members could rush forward, Zichen, who was not shrouded in the black fog, turned around and gave them a look of absolute certainty. The 2 girls retreated with relief. Yu Gui, who had been following Shania, suddenly rushed forward toward Zichen. Shania was slightly stunned and was about to follow. "Retreat quickly." One he shouted and slashed toward the sky. The black light was split apart by the saber light, and a corpse in 2 appeared. "There are too many soul-devouring clan members here. If you stay, you won't be of help but a burden," one he said seriously. "Do you want to be a burden to Zichen?" Based on their senses, they naturally knew that there were many powerful soul-devouring clan members nearby, and there were more coming from afar. But what about Zichen? Shania asked anxiously. "There are so many enemies. How can he deal with them?" "If we can't deal with it, we can still escape. If everyone stays together, we won't even be able to escape." That was Wan He's response. At that moment, he was determined to retreat. Butterball and Yunjin had strange expressions on their faces. Wan He's explanation seemed to make some sense, but it also seemed to have some problems. Now that there were more and more enemies around them, they didn't have time to think too much and could only retreat while fighting. Moreover, Zichen's battle prowess was extremely strong. It was very likely that he would be able to fight his way out alone. As the distance between the two sides increased, the number of enemies on Zichen's side increased. This allowed Zichen to confirm one thing. These people were really here for him. Zichen was glad that this was not directed at Lan Gumeng. However, what puzzled him was that he didn't have any reputation on this battlefield, so why would he be targeted? What's more, they were targeting him with such a large force. Black fog surged all around him. Occasionally, the light of soul weapons would flash. Who knew how many members of the soul-devouring race were hidden within? In front of Zichen, one of the 10 heroes looked at Zichen and said indifferently, "You're quite loyal. You know to let your companions leave." Zichen looked at him. "You can tell. Your companions don't seem weak either. However, our target this time is only you, so it's not impossible for us to let them go," the 10 heroes said with a smile. "As long as you're dead, we can go back. After all, we've come out and ambushed you until now. It's been quite tiring for us." Zichen raised his head to look at the sky. He could still hear the vibrations of energy. He said with some emotion, "It seems like you've created such a large force just to deal with me." "That's right. Our goal is to kill you. After we kill you, everyone will leave. Everyone will be happy," the 10 heroes said helplessly. "Who asked you to offend a heavenly soul? Since our Lord is willing to give up his authority here to kill you, we naturally have to cooperate fully. Do you have any last words before you die? The next time we meet on the battlefield, I'll pass on your last words to your friends. At the same time, I'll send them to meet you." The 10 heroes said with a smile, "See, I am very kind, right?" M was ranked 9th among the 10 heroes of the soul-devouring race. Zichen nodded and said, "You are very kind. I'll remember your name. You're an opponent worthy of respect." "Thank you." "Thank you?" M said. "Are you stupid?" Zichen continued. "Thank you for providing me with the contribution points. I'll gladly accept them." The smile on M's face froze. A sinister expression appeared. Zichen put away his staff. It mysteriously appeared in his hand. He raised his brush and drew a talisman. However, it was not a single stroke. Instead, it was a complicated holy talisman technique. Battle Spirit Summoning. This was the holy talisman technique from the Holy Mountain. When Zichen had obtained it, he had studied it for a long time but had not succeeded. During this time, he had asked Wanhe. The latter had told him that it was because his realm was not high enough. As expected, as his realm increased, Zichen could successfully use this holy talisman technique. As the last stroke fell, a tall battle spirit appeared. It was filled with boundless murderous intent. The battle spirit slashed down with his axe. As the axe light fell, a deep gully appeared in the ground, and at the end of this gully, 10 Jewel Emu's body was slammed into a mountain wall. Several of his bones were broken. "You do have some skills." M wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He smiled bitterly and said, "I can't. Looks like our Lord was right. It's your turn." More rays of light descended from the sky as more and more experts appeared. These experts could all be called out by name. In other words, they were the 10 heroes of the soul-devouring clan. In addition to the 10 heroes, there were many other soul-devouring clan experts. They clearly wanted to kill Zichen. Zichen looked down at Yugue and said, "Little guy, if possible, find a chance to run." After knowing that this was a trap, Zichen and Wanhe exchanged glances and came up with a plan. He would stay behind and attract the soul-devouring clan's main force so that Lan Gumeng could escape. After all, Lan Gumeng was the most important person to Bloody Battle City. Moreover, as his friend, Zichen could not let her die here. In fact, when they had fallen for the trap and appeared here, it was already destined that none of them would be able to leave alive. Zichen's action was to minimize the number of casualties. He chose to sacrifice himself to give others a chance to live. Yugue didn't respond, but its cold eyes said it all. Zhanling stood beside Zichen, holding his axe. Previously, he had injured one of the 10 heroes with a swing of his axe. This was enough to show how powerful he was. The soul-devouring clan experts did not immediately attack. They all looked at Zichen with curiosity in their eyes. He was originally a nameless existence. However, a heavenly soul had used his authority to mobilize the entire soul-devouring clan. He did not disappoint them. He defeated Mo Lin, killed Mo Wuling, and severely injured M. His combat strength was comparable to the 10 heroes. Since you're not attacking, I won't hold back. Zichen put away the sacred talisman brush, and the black staff appeared in his hand again. At the same time, a light shield appeared in his other hand. Streaks of power appeared around Zichen's body, revolving around him. This was the power of the Grim Reaper. A terrifying aura surged out like a tide. This was the highest level of power in combat arts. After reaching the Earth Soul stage, he had also comprehended it. Kill! Zichen held his staff and shield and moved forward. The power of the Grim Reaper circulated around his body. After 3 breaths, one of the 10 heroes of the soul-devouring clan was killed. After 10 minutes, the second one of the 10 heroes died. The heavily injured didn't manage to escape in time and died under Zichen's staff. Chapter 3995. The battlefield was cruel, but it was also tragic. Death was happening every second. The canyon seemed to have been dyed in blood. The heavenly souls fought in the sky, while the earth souls fought on the ground. No one held back. They were all fighting with their full strength. Zichen was also killing enemies. One after another, earth souls died at his hands, as well as the 10 heroes of the soul-devouring clan. His battle record was extremely brilliant. After using his full strength, he killed 6 of the 10 heroes. However, he was also severely injured. His original spirit robe could no longer protect him. He fought as he ran. The heavenly souls from both sides who were fighting in the sky saw this scene. They were extremely shocked. However, the experts on their side could not save Zichen. This was because the enemies on the other side seemed to have gone crazy. They did not give them a chance at all. They were even willing to die in battle. At this moment, all the heavenly souls had a clear understanding of Zichen's combat strength. This earth soul was not very famous in Blood Battle City. It could even be said that Zichen, who only had some fame because of women, had such a powerful and terrifying combat strength. On the soul-devouring clan side, the experts from the soul-devouring clan, who originally thought that they were making a mountain out of a molehill, dispelled this thought after Zichen killed 6 of the 10 heroes. They even started to celebrate the Demon King, Heavenly Soul's decisive and impressive decision. Zichen, who was riddled with injuries, ran deeper into the canyon. He kept going deeper into the canyon that he did not dare to go too far in the past. The periphery was filled with enemies. Occasionally, there would be aftershocks from the attacks of the heavenly souls. Once he was swept by them, it was no different from encountering a strong enemy. It was impossible to charge out. Through this battle, Zichen could confirm that the soul-devouring clan's target was indeed him. Therefore, Zichen had to keep the soul-devouring clan here. He definitely could not let them go out. Otherwise, Lan Gumeng and Shan Yu would be in danger. Wan He led a few people and successfully charged to the periphery. They gathered with the main group of the soul-devouring clan. The battle here was much easier. Shan Yu would occasionally look behind, hoping to see Zichen. But no, he was disappointed again and again. Why hasn't Zichen come out yet? Lan Gumeng looked at Wan He. Adjusting his breathing, Wan He said, "Wait a little longer. Perhaps it will be soon." Killing his way out was not easy, and his injuries were also extremely serious. Fortunately, he did not encounter any of the other 10 heroes. Otherwise, it would be even more troublesome. Black mist surged in front of them, and it was unknown how many soul-devouring clan members were roaming about inside. Light would appear from time to time, and that was the sign that both sides were fighting. After waiting for a long time and not seeing Zichen return, Shanya said anxiously, "No, there are too many enemies. I have to go and help Zichen." "I'll go too." Lan Gumeng moved forward. Butterball and Yunjin followed. "Come back." When he opened his eyes and said indifferently, Shanya turned around with tears in her eyes. "He won't come back, right?" Shanya's mind was very sharp. She had vaguely guessed the situation, but the others were still in the dark. One he said in a low voice, "Don't worry. He will come back. We should trust him." Shanya stared at Wan He. "He won't come back. When you led us to retreat, you gave up on him. The reason we were able to kill our way out was because Zichen attracted all the experts to his side." Butterball and Yunjan's expressions changed, and Lan Gumeng's beautiful face immediately turned pale, because she understood Zichen's intention. The soul-devouring clan did not discover her identity. This move was aimed at Zichen. After they met up with Wan He, the others' plan succeeded, and Zichen chose to sacrifice himself to protect everyone. But Lan Gumeng knew that the person Zichen wanted to protect the most was actually her, the goddess of the divine soul realm. It's a mistake. Everything is a mistake. He's the most important person. He's the one who can help us the most. Lan Gumeng turned and left with tears in her eyes. She wanted to save people. Compared to him, who is so strong, my meager strength is nothing. Shanya followed without hesitation. Wan He's eyes were filled with grief. "Go, all of you," he said in a low voice. "Let Zichen die in vain. Let him know that even though he gave up his life, he still couldn't let you all live." Shanya's body trembled. Clearly, when he had concluded that Zichen would not be able to escape and would die, Butterball and Yunjan were stunned by the news. Their minds were blank. They did not know what to say. They only knew how to fight. They knew that Zichen would bring up the rear. They did not expect the result to be like this. Farewell just like that? She didn't even say a word of farewell. For example, to live a good life? Lan Gumeng turned and looked at Wan He. She said firmly, "If we go to save him now, we still have a chance. If we're too late, it will be too late." Wan He said, "If we go to save him now, more people will die. The soul-devouring clan is targeting him. Zichen can't come out. His biggest wish is that you can live. He hopes that you can live and grow. If you go in now, won't you waste Zichen's sacrifice?" Lan Gumeng squatted on the ground and began to cry. Shanya suddenly smiled. With 2 streaks of tears on her face, she looked at Lan Gumeng and said softly, "Little mute, Wan He is right. You can't die. You can't die in this place. I believe that this is what Zichen wants to see." Lan Gumeng raised her head and looked at Shanya. Shanya bent down and hugged Lan Gumeng. She said, "You stay here. I'll go save him." "Shanya, don't be impulsive." Wan He's expression changed. He said involuntarily, "Zichen doesn't want anything to happen to you." Shanya smiled, but her smile was sad, like a withered flower on a rainy night. "But I don't want anything to happen to him either. If something happens to him, then what's the point of me living?" Shanya turned and walked into the black fog. At this moment, she no longer cared about her own safety. Wan He wanted to stop her, but how could he stop Shanya, who was determined to die? Yunzhen and Butterball stood there, dumbfounded. At this moment, a blue light fell from the sky and landed on Shanya. Shanya immediately fell to the ground and lost consciousness. An old man in a blue robe appeared out of thin air. Lan Gumeng's expression changed when she saw the old man. "Retreat!" The blue-robed old man raised his hand, and the light of energy rolled up Shanya. Wraith's aura became very weak. He had contributed a lot in the previous battle. He pointed forward. Zichen swept the staff in his hand, and a powerful force burst from the staff. With 2 bangs, the 2 soul devourers hiding in the dark died. Chen didn't have time to take his spoils and hurriedly left. A mere 3 breaths later, a member of the soul-devouring clan appeared silently. He glanced at the 2 dead bodies and continued to move forward. That was the direction Chen had fled in. Chapter 3996. The black fog in front of him rolled, and a person walked out, blocking Chen's path. Presently, he still dared to obstruct Chen by himself. So he was absolutely not an ordinary Earth soul. One of the 10 heroes. Chen looked at him and adjusted his aura. Hunning. The soul-devouring clan said indifferently. Not only was he one of the 10 heroes, but he was ranked 3rd among them. Han Ing looked at Chen and said indifferently, I heard that you've killed 6 of the 10 heroes. That's quite impressive. We've all underestimated you before. Chen shook his head and said, Not 6, it's 7. And you're the 7th. Chen had already charged forward with his staff. The golden light illuminated the surroundings and also illuminated Han Ying's disdainful face. You still want to kill me in your current state? Han Ying sneered and slapped the staff. Both of them retreated. Blood seeped from the corner of Chen's mouth. He'd been seriously injured before, so it was indeed difficult for him to fight against one of the 10 heroes. However, he obviously wouldn't give up and continued to charge forward. Earlier, the ghost spirit, Saint Rune, circled around him. It immediately formed a formation and entered Han Ying's sea of consciousness. This scene was completely unexpected. Han Ying was slightly stunned. Then he felt his soul being devoured and destroyed. You're courting death. Cold, murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he charged towards Chen. At the same time, Chen began to run. He wanted to exhaust his opponent to death. However, as soon as Chen turned around, he sensed a dangerous aura. He immediately blocked with his staff. With a loud boom, Chen's body was sent flying. While he was still in the air, he began to cough up blood. Another soul-devouring clan member appeared. It was the one who'd been tailing him. He'd rushed over in time, but Chen had sensed his sneak attack in advance. He glanced at Han Ying and asked, How are you? Han Ying said coldly, I was tricked, but it's not a big deal. He immediately sat down cross-legged and began to expel the devouring power of the ghost spirit. In the distance, Chen, who had landed on the ground, didn't run away immediately. Instead, he said indifferently, Report your name. I don't kill nameless people. Home to. As expected, the other party reported his name. This made Chen's heart sink. Sure enough, it was the 4th of the 10 talents again. Chen sensed the severity of his injuries. Knowing that he couldn't escape, he sneered, It's not bad to have the 2 of you die with me before I die. Chen wielded his staff and shield. He channeled the power of death from his combat technique and charged towards Hong Tuesday. The powerful force continued to vibrate, and Chen, who was charging forward, was pushed back again and again, and he was forced to charge forward again and again. Chen's injuries were getting more and more serious. In the end, it was more like the most primitive impact. He was covered in blood, but he continued to charge forward. It looked very tragic. As for his 2 enemies, they were also heavily injured by Chen's terrifying power. After 15 minutes, Chen was on the verge of death, and the 2 10 talents were lying in pools of blood, no longer breathing. 8. Chen had single-handedly killed 8 elites. This was an impressive battle record. However, Chen, who had one, didn't look happy at all. He forced himself to stand and looked forward. Come out. Your concealment technique isn't very good. I don't need to use any more tricks to deal with you now. A mocking voice rang out, and a member of the soul-devouring clan walked out from the shadows. Do you need me to volunteer? He looked at Chen and said, My name is Alba. I'm 2nd of the 10 talents. Chen's body was covered in wounds. It was very difficult for him to even stand. His body was shaking, as if he would collapse at any time. Alba didn't even need to do anything. He only needed to stand in the distance and watch quietly. Zichen would slowly die on his own. In this state, Zichen was no threat to Alba, who was at his peak. "Do you know why I was the last one to attack?" Alba looked at Zichen. Zichen didn't have the strength to answer. His vision was blurry, and his life was starting to count down. Next he might die, or his soul might return to the saint spirit realm. "Actually, I've been following you all the way. I saw you kill the others with my own eyes." Zichen's expression changed. Alba had been following him all this time, but he hadn't noticed at all. Why didn't he take the opportunity to attack? "Because I need you. Or rather, I need your power," Alba said. "I've never seen your combat strength before. Once I devour you and use you, I believe that I'll be the strongest in the same realm. When the time comes, I can switch places with Emokai. I might even have a chance to fight for the title of Son of Darkness. That's why I've been following you, but didn't kill you. I wanted to see how great your potential is. Now that I've seen it, I'm very satisfied. Therefore, I want to take back this power." Alba stretched out his hand. His body seemed to teleport, and he appeared in front of Zichen. Then he slapped his palm on Zichen's forehead. A strong devouring power came from Alba's palm and entered Zichen's body. It wanted to devour Zichen's power and his potential. Even though Zichen was clearly on the brink of death, the talent and power in his body were like a boulder that could not be shaken at all. How is this possible? Alba's expression changed. Was there anything in this world that his demonic technique couldn't devour? At that moment, Zichen stretched out his hands and grabbed Alba's arm. He was already on the verge of death, but his eyes were suddenly filled with murderous intent. "You shouldn't be so close to me." Flames began to burn around his weak body. A strong aura of life began to surge out. He used the revival technique. At the same time, the dying underworld ghost who had been assisting Zichen in battle suddenly appeared behind Alba and opened its mouth. A black hole appeared. "You're courting death," Alba shouted angrily. The power around him began to surge like turbulent waves and directly drowned the underworld ghost. The underworld ghost flew backward. If it was at its peak, it would have no problem devouring Alba at such a close distance. Unfortunately, the underworld ghost had used up a lot of energy in the previous battle. Its current state wasn't much better than Zichen's. Zichen was still holding Alba's arm tightly. The other party's devouring ability hadn't been successfully activated. During this time, Alba tried to force him away, but to no avail. "If I'm going to die, let's die together." Zichen's body burned with flames. The flames of life appeared, and his injuries began to heal. His soul power was also recovering. At the same time, more than 10 strands of soul power appeared around Zichen. Like chains, they wrapped around Alba's body and firmly fixed their bodies together. In the next moment, these soul power chains began to burn, igniting Alba's power at the same time. To Zichen, the flames that could restore his life were like poisonous flames to Alba. He began to scream and became a flaming man like Zichen. The soul power on his body shook violently, trying to shake Zichen away. But Zichen held on tightly to his arm, refusing to let go no matter what. Alba's other hand slapped Zichen's head. With a loud bang, Zichen's body shook. Blood began to flow from his orifices, but he still didn't let go. The flames completely enveloped the two. Alba was like a madman, constantly attacking Zichen. Let go of me. Go away. Let go." Zichen's body shook continuously, but he still held on tightly to Alba. The flames of revival and the restored life force could no longer heal his injuries. They could barely prevent Zichen from being beaten to death by Alba. With a loud bang, Alba's soul power burned and his aura weakened. The two were competing to see who could last longer and whose life force was more tenacious. In the end, Alba couldn't hold on anymore and fell. All of the soul power in his body had been burned away, including his own life force. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough, but that the flames were too terrifying. After using his last trump card, the revival technique, Zichen's aura didn't recover much. His vision began to blur, and it seemed like he could collapse at any time. He shook his head, then bit the tip of his tongue, allowing the blood to spread from his mouth. He staggered forward. This wasn't a place to stay for long. Yugue wasn't in a good state either. He followed beside Zichen and jumped forward. Zichen felt his vision become more and more blurry, and he almost couldn't see anything in front of him. He suddenly felt very cold, and a wind seemed to be blowing around him. Gradually, a whistling sound reached his ears. It was the sound of a strong wind. Why is there a strong wind? Zichen looked forward with difficulty. He didn't know when the black fog that filled the surroundings had dispersed, but he saw a strong wind in his vision. It was a storm, a terrifying storm of death. The storm became stronger and stronger, and Zichen's body was no longer stable. It seemed like he could be swept away by the storm at any time. His consciousness was about to dissipate, but he remembered what one he had said before. He had always guessed that the exit might be in the center of the storm. The consciousness in Zichen's mind had become blurry, but he continued to walk forward. This was a subconscious action. He subconsciously knew that if he continued to stay in the same place, his life would be in danger. A storm appeared in front of him. He should have avoided it, but at this moment he didn't have much consciousness to control his body. Even when he saw a blue wave appear in front of him, he didn't change his direction. He continued to move forward and plunged into it. Yugue turned into a stream of light and disappeared with Zichen. This was a lake, and Zichen had mistakenly entered the lake. Zichen, who fell into the lake, began to sink to the bottom. Chapter 3997. The decisive battle ended because of a sudden storm. The soul hunters and soul devourers both suffered heavy casualties. The soul devourers attacked like crazy, intending to attack Bloody Battle City. Of course, the soul hunters were unwilling. The two sides fought a bloody battle in the one-line sky. The scale was comparable to the battle thousands of years ago. When the storm appeared, the soul hunters began to retreat because the death storm was extremely unfavorable to them. As for the soul devourers, after chasing for a while, they did not dare to chase them out of the one-line sky. Then they began to retreat. The decisive battle ended just like that. The storm became more and more terrifying, filling the entire one-line sky. All the survivors of the soul hunters stood on the city wall and looked at the storm in the canyon. Many of them secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The heavenly souls stood at the front. Almost all of them were injured, but when they looked at the storm in the canyon, there was only guilt in their eyes. I've been paying attention to that kid for a long time, but I was too careless. I didn't expect the soul devourers to do this. The old gatekeeper who had participated in the battle sighed. Through this battle, many heavenly souls had seen Zichen's battle and even his achievements. He had single-handedly killed 8 of the 10 talents of the soul devourers. How powerful was that? It was a pity that such a talented general had entered the depths of the one-line sky and disappeared from their senses. Now that the soul devourers had retreated, the result was obvious. Many heavenly souls blamed themselves because they could not protect a genius who could become the leader of Bloody Battle City in the future. The old gatekeeper was the first to see Zichen and even gave him a general token. However, he did not expect Zichen to be so powerful. If the Earth soul was like this, what about the heavenly soul? How powerful would his combat power be? Unfortunately, it was too late. No one knew whether Zichen was dead or alive. But according to the crazy actions of the soul devourers, there was a high possibility that Zichen was dead. Even if he did not die, there was no chance of survival in this terrifying storm. Above the city walls, Yao Yi was looking for Zichen. He had obtained a lot of contribution points in today's battle. As his opponent, he didn't wish for anything to happen to Zichen. He wanted to defeat him fair and square on the battlefield. Unfortunately, Zichen wasn't among the crowd, nor were the two fairies. This made his expression change, and he had a bad feeling. Could it be that something had happened to everyone? At this moment, a figure appeared in front of his eyes. It was Fairy Shania. However, she looked very depressed at this moment, as if half of her spirit had collapsed. Lan Xianzi was also there. Yao Yi also saw Wan He, Yunzhan, and Butterball. However, he didn't see Zichen. The expressions on their faces were extremely grave. Shen Gui, who was standing beside Yao Yi, also saw the scene. He said in surprise, "Why don't I see Zichen? Could it be that Zichen didn't come back?" Yao Yi shook his head. "That's impossible. That guy isn't much weaker than me. Furthermore, when he's back, how could something have happened to him?" At this moment, there was a lot of noise on the city walls. The previous battle was too shocking, so not many people were paying attention to Shania. "Everyone, listen to me." Yunzhan suddenly raised his voice and even used his power. Everyone looked in Yunzhan's direction. They saw Wan He and the two fairies. In an instant, the noisy atmosphere became quiet. Yunzhan continued, "We have a traitor here. A traitor who colluded with the Soul Devourers." As soon as he said this, it was like throwing a bomb on the city walls. It caused a huge commotion and caused an uproar. Traitor? What do they mean? Yao Yi was confused. Isn't this a decisive battle? All the heavenly souls in the surroundings fell silent. Shania and Lan Gumeng's eyes became extremely cold. Wan He's expression also became much colder. He walked to a corresponding vantage point and stood there looking down at the crowd. He said, "This decisive battle is actually a trap set by the Soul Devourers. This trap is targeted at Zichen. The Soul Devourer's goal is to kill him." The heavenly souls who participated in the battle were slow to realize. After hearing Wan He's words, their expressions became even more ashamed. This was because the Soul Devourers had succeeded in this battle and won. But to those at the earthly soul realm, this news was too great and too shocking. Who was Zichen? Many people knew about him. However, his fame was only due to his good luck and survival. It was because he was on good terms with the two fairies. To be honest, his fame was not as great as the two fairies. The Soul Devourers had created such a huge commotion just for him. Many people did not believe it. There was even suspicion on their faces. This is true. Right at this moment, an old man in a blue robe walked out. Practically all the geniuses of the Soul Eater clan were mobilized in this battle, and Zichen killed 8 of them by himself. The other members of the Soul Eater clan are countless. No one recognized the old man in the blue robe. However, the heavenly soul aura on him could not be faked. The words of a heavenly soul naturally carried a lot of weight. What? The surroundings, which had just quieted down, became noisy again. Everyone was shocked and could not believe it. Zichen single-handedly annihilated 8 elites? Yao Yi could not believe it either. However, after his gaze swept across the faces of the heavenly souls, he had to believe it even if he did not want to. A single person had killed 8 elites? The confidence in his heart had completely collapsed at this moment. Who could stop such a glorious battle record? At this moment, no one doubted Wan He's words anymore. Wan He continued, "After I was surrounded, the Soul Devourers surrounded me, but did not kill me. I guessed that this was a trap. Therefore, no one in my team sent out a distress signal." Wan He's gaze swept across the crowd. He said with certainty, "Everyone listen carefully. No one sent out a distress signal. However, Zichen had come and told me that he had come because he had received my distress signal. Therefore, we concluded that there was a traitor in our team. A traitor who colluded with the Soul Devourers. Zi Chen's accident this time was caused by the traitor working with the soul devourers. No distress signal. Yao Yi, who was shocked, regained his senses and looked at Shen Gui, who was beside him. At the same time, Shanya and Lan Gumeng stared coldly at Shen Gui. He was the one who had spread the news back then, being stared at by so many people. Shen Gui said angrily, "Impossible! The news I heard back then was that one he and Du Yi sent out a distress signal. If you don't believe me, you can ask Du Yi." Du Yi was also one of the 10 heroes. He was very famous. In an instant, many people looked around, searching for Du Yi. The blue-robed elder said, "There's no need to look for him. Du Yi has died in the canyon." There was another uproar. One of the 10 heroes had died in battle. This had not happened in a long time. I'm guessing that the soul devourers did this deliberately. They surrounded my team and Du Yi's team at the same time, but did not kill them. After Du Yi sent out a distress signal and Zi Qin successfully arrived, they killed him. When he said in a low voice, "I'm sure that I did not see Du Yi when I went to the battlefield. Therefore, even if he asked for help, he would not know that I was also on the battlefield." This was a matter for discussion. At that moment, everyone's gazes landed on Shen Gui. Shen Gui's expression was very ugly. "Why are you all looking at me? I have no grudge against Zi Qin. Why would I harm him? Right now, it's not about grudges. It's about colluding with the soul devourers." Shanya said coldly, "We will not let the traitor go." A murderous aura surged on the city wall. All the members of the Earth Spirit clan were filled with murderous intent. In the Death Canyon, the most intolerable thing was colluding with the soul devourers. Feeling the murderous gazes of the crowd, Shen Gui explained loudly, "It's not me. It's really not me. Someone will investigate whether it's you or not." The blue-robed elder waved his hand and said, "Everyone has worked hard in this battle. Go and rest first." The group of Earth Soul Realm experts left unwillingly. However, it did not take long for some news to spread that Zi Qin had not killed 8 of the 10 prodigies of the soul-devouring clan, but 9 of them. One person killed 9 of the 10 heroes. What kind of strength was that? After the shock, many people felt that it was a pity. Because Zi Qin had not returned after such a long time, it was very likely that he was killed. Even if he did not die, it would be difficult for him to survive in the storm that was lingering for a long time. A genius of a generation had fallen just like that. The blue-robed elder's name was Lan Xing. He was the first ancestor of the Lan family. He had been waiting for the divine soul goddess here for many years. These days, he had been guarding Bloody Battle City to prevent any accidents from happening. On this day, the 2 fairies came to visit. Lan Xing had seen the 2 of them before. Even though it was only his clone that had seen them, he still knew everything. The 2 bowed to Lan Xing. Shanya asked nervously, "Senior, is Zi Qin really dead?" Lan Xing shook his head. "He's not dead?" Their eyes lit up. Lan Xing sighed and said, "Actually, I don't know either." The storm suddenly appeared and cut off all senses. It even blocked the heaven's secrets. The 2 lowered their heads, feeling very sad. Lan Gumeng said sadly, "It's all because of me. Zi Qin didn't want to expose my identity, so he stayed here alone." Lan Xing said, "You don't have to blame yourselves for this. This is a tribulation that Zi Qin must endure on his path. He is destined to face this tribulation. Whether he can avoid it depends on the will of the heavens." Shanya asked, "Senior, if Zi Qin really died on the battlefield, can his soul still return?" This was Shanya's last hope. Even if Zi Qin really died in this world, she hoped that Zi Qin returned to his original world and saw his friends and loved ones. I'm not too sure about the Descenders. If you're lucky enough to enter the top of the Gate of the Sky, you may find the answer there. Did you find the traitor? Lan Gumeng asked. We already have some clues. More than one person has been discovered. We need some time to ferret out all of them. There was anger on Lan Xing's face. The soul-devouring clan is too arrogant. They actually set up a complete ambush here. After leaving, the two girls locked themselves in their rooms and began to cultivate wholeheartedly. This was because they blamed themselves and felt that it was their own lack of strength that had harmed Zichen. Chapter 3998. Zichen fell into the lake, and the ghost disappeared from his side. His body began to sink. The lake did not look big, but it was very deep. A fish swam around Zichen, its eyes curiously looking at this soul hunter who had almost no signs of life. This little fish was golden. Its eyes blinked slightly, as if it hesitated for a moment. Then, a ray of light flew out from its head. The light enveloped Zichen. Zichen sank faster. When he reached the bottom of the lake, he touched a ripple restriction. The next moment, both the little fish and Zichen disappeared. On the surface of the lake, a member of the soul-devouring clan appeared silently. He stared at the lake in front of him, hesitating. However, after a moment of hesitation, he leaped into the lake as if he was searching for something. After a moment, he jumped out of the lake but found nothing. The death storm had suddenly appeared. Even the soul-devouring clan did not dare to stay here for too long. Soon, everything here would be swallowed up. After leaving the lake, several members of the soul-devouring clan appeared. When they saw this man, they all bowed. The man asked, "Did you find anything?" Everyone shook their heads, indicating that they did not have any clues. The man's expression was somewhat gloomy. This time, they had paid a huge price to kill the soul-devouring clan. He was the only one left among the 10 heroes. Unexpectedly, they still could not kill the other party. Did he disappear into thin air? Emokai said, "Send Blood Shadow. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. The rest of you retreat quickly." Under this death storm, only Blood Shadow could stay for a short while. The members of the soul-devouring clan retreated. Emokai looked into the distance. Did he accidentally enter the deep sea? But the sea tribe has always been neutral. They should not care about this, right? Zichen entered the ripple. This was an underground undercurrent. The ray of light protected his body as he moved toward the end of the undercurrent. During this time, flames appeared on Zichen's body again, but they were very faint. It was the revival technique that barely maintained his life. The little golden fish shook its body and turned into a sea tribewoman. "He's injured so badly." The flames of life on Zichen's body could vanish at any moment. The sea tribewoman didn't dare to delay. She lifted Zichen up with both hands and began to move forward. She was a golden-scaled fish. As a neutral member of the Sea Clan, she did not care about this matter. However, this soul hunter had an aura that belonged to the golden-scaled royal family. This aura had another name in the sea race, the luck of the imperial family. Only the royal family of the golden-scaled tribe could bestow this kind of luck. If the other party had this kind of luck, it meant that they were friends of the golden-scaled tribe. Therefore, she decided to save him and bring him back to the golden-scaled clan. In this underground world, the sea race was the absolute king. They could suppress the soul devourers and soul hunters. Her speed was extremely fast, like a beam of light passing through her hands. Even so, the flame of life on the other party's body was still extinguished. Just as she was worried that the other party would die midway, a golden light suddenly shone. That was the imperial family's luck. Right now, it was supporting the other party's body, replacing the flames that had disappeared before, maintaining his life. Luck activated automatically. He really is a friend of the Golden Scale royal family. The woman was delighted and increased her speed again. "Polly, why did you bring back a soul hunter?" When they arrived at the gathering place of the sea race, some of the sea race patrolling the area saw the woman bringing Zichen and asked curiously, "He is a friend of the Golden Scale tribe. I want to bring him back to the imperial family." When Polly answered, she did not stop because even the luck of the imperial family had disappeared by a lot. If he did not hurry back in time, he might die here. Polly kept bringing Zi-Chin into the deepest part of the sea race. During this time, no one deliberately stopped her. Otherwise, Zi-Chan would be in even more danger. However, all the sea race along the way knew that Polly had saved a soul hunter. Polly was only stopped when they reached the core area and met the imperial family's guards. "My lord, this person is a friend of the imperial family. He is seriously injured and needs to be treated in the imperial city," Polly said respectfully. "A friend of the imperial family?" The guard looked at the unconscious Zi-Chin from head to toe. Obviously, he did not believe it. "Yes, I could still feel the imperial family's aura on him. This aura is also sustaining his life." Polly said anxiously, "My lord, please bring him into the imperial city quickly and save his life." "You are lying. Why didn't we feel the imperial family's aura?" The guard's expression was cold. He stepped forward and said, "Get out of the way!" "My lord, there really was before. It was just to protect his life. The imperial family's aura has disappeared." Polly glanced at the dying Zi-Chen and extended her hand. Polly, can swear to the god of the sea that this person has the luck aura of the royal family on him. I'm not lying. Without the imperial family's order, no one can enter the imperial city. Leave now, or else you'll be punished for your crimes." The guard did not listen to her explanation and began to drive Polly away sternly. Polly did not expect this to happen. She was in a hurry to get here, but the imperial family's aura had disappeared. If she could not enter, this soul hunter would definitely die. Could she just watch him die like this? Polly was unwilling. He was clearly a friend of the imperial family. Moreover, from the aura that could save his life, he was not an ordinary friend. "Get out of the way, quickly. Don't block the prince's way." The imperial family's guard drove Polly away again. This was because a group of imperial family members was coming from afar. They were riding on sea beasts. In the middle, there was an elegant carriage. It was obvious that the people coming were not ordinary. Zi-Chen's aura became weaker and weaker. Polly could not bear to see him like this. She said softly, "I will fight for you one more time. If it doesn't work this time, then there is nothing I can do." She used water to carry Zi-Chen and rushed toward the carriage in front. "My lord, he has the imperial family's aura. Please save him." Before she got close, Polly shouted loudly to prove that she did not have any ill intentions. The guards on the sea beasts took out their weapons and stared coldly at the approaching Polly. The leader of the guards said indifferently, "Anyone who comes close will be killed without mercy." The guards who were guarding the door immediately came forward after seeing this. They wanted to take Polly away by force. Polly knelt down. "My lord, he really is a friend of the imperial family. He had the imperial family's aura on him before, but it is gone now." "Oh, the imperial family's aura? Let me have a look." A man who was near the carriage came forward. There was a golden scale between his eyebrows. He had an extremely handsome face. Everywhere he passed, the guards bowed to him. When Polly saw the man, she guessed his identity and was even more shocked. She quickly bowed and said, "Greetings, Prince Fei." Prince Fei waved his hand and looked at Zi-Chin. "It's a soul hunter. He doesn't have long to live. As for the imperial family's aura, I did not sense it." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Cold light flashed all around. The guards approached and surrounded Polly and the unconscious Zi-Chin. Even the prince said that there was no imperial family's aura. Naturally, there was none. As such, the other party's background was worth investigating. Prince Fei looked at Polly. "I see that you are also from the Golden Scale tribe. Why did you use a dying person to deceive this prince? Just to take a closer look at this prince?" Polly did not know how to answer. If she did not answer properly, she might lose her life here. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the carriage. "What happened?" It was a woman's voice that was cold and clear. It's a small golden scale tribe. In order to take a closer look at me, they found a dying soul hunter and pretended to have the imperial family's aura. It's just a small matter. This prince can deal with it. Linyu, you don't need to come out. Prince Fei turned around and smiled. If this smile was seen by the other women of the Oceanic tribe, who knew how many of them would be mesmerized. A soul hunter with the imperial family's aura? Let me see. The water curtain of the carriage opened by itself, and a peerless beauty walked out. The surrounding guards bowed again. The barefooted beauty walked out from the water curtain and looked at the unconscious Zichen. She was just a little curious at first, but when she saw his face clearly, her expression couldn't help but change. Chapter 3999. Looking at the unconscious member of the soul-devouring clan, Linyu shouted with uncertainty, "Zichen?" Of course. Zichan would not respond. The other people's expressions all changed. Almost subconsciously, all the people surrounding Polly took a step back. Prince Fei asked in surprise, "Linyu, do you know him?" Princess Lin, you did not respond. She quickly moved forward and came before Zichen. "It's really you." Linyu was shocked. When she was sealed, she could see what was happening outside through Feng Yuza. She could also hear the conversation between Feng Yuza and the others. Naturally, she knew Zichen. Moreover, she had purposely left the luck energy in Zichen's body to return a favor for her sister. Who would have thought that she would see Zichen at this time, and that the aura on his body had disappeared? How serious was his injury to be able to deplete the aura of the imperial family? How did he get injured? Why is he so badly injured? Linyu looked at Polly. Polly was very excited. She did not expect the princess to know this person. She quickly told her what had happened. Prince Fei stood at the side and kept quiet. He was a little embarrassed. After all, he had been too arrogant. The few guards who had blocked Polly's path earlier were all extremely nervous and unconsciously took a few more steps back. "Oh, he has entered the battlefield and fell into the water with serious injuries." Princess Lin, you listened to Polly's description. Polly nodded and said anxiously, "Princess, please save him quickly. He will die if you don't save him." Linyu laughed. "Die? Since I'm here, he can't die even if he wants to." Linyu's red lips moved slightly and a round pearl appeared. It was emitting a dazzling light. "Linyu, no." Prince Fei knew Linyu's intention and shouted to stop her. Polly was also shocked. The princess had actually used her own life force to protect his life. The relationship between the two of them was definitely not ordinary. "I know what I'm doing." The life energy pearl flew to Zichen's side. Linyu pinched it gently. Zichen opened his mouth, and the life energy pearl entered Zichen's mouth. Prince Fei's eyes were filled with jealousy. Let's go in first." Princess Linyu used her energy to lift Zichen up and walked towards her carriage. "What's your name?" "Princess, my name is Polly. Follow me into the city." "Yes." Linyu led Zichen into the carriage. The group headed deeper into the forest. Polly followed at the back of the group and rejoiced in her heart. Fortunately, she had fought for it again. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. This was Polly's first time in the imperial city. She was shocked by everything here, and her eyes were filled with amazement. There was no need to consider the fate of the soul hunter called Zichen. After all, the princess had used her life elixir to save him. So, she naturally had to take a good look at this place so that she could tell her friends about it when she returned and let them be envious. Linyu brought the soul hunter to her bedroom, while the others stayed outside, including Prince Fei. Ever since Linyu returned from her ordeal, Prince Fei, who was extremely famous in the imperial golden scale tribe, would often come to look for Princess Linyu. However, he would always stop outside her bedroom and never step in. Who would have thought that a soul hunter from an unknown place would be so lucky? "Fei Mo, why are you here?" Where's my sister? A childish voice with some alienation rang out. Faye Mo didn't need to turn around to know who it was. In the Imperial Golden Scale tribe, there was only one person who dared to call him that. Faye Mo turned around and said with a smile, Princess Lin, you just returned to her bedroom. My sister has already gone back. Why are you still here? Are you waiting for us to provide you with food? Or is it that you, the Playboy Prince, are short of money recently and can't even afford to eat? A little girl dressed in colorful clothes stood in front of Faye Mo. Her young and beautiful face was naturally filled with arrogance. Faye Mo's smile didn't fade. Xiao Lin, what are you talking about? I just came back with the princess, but we met a soul hunter on the way, and the princess brought him back. What did you say? My sister brought a soul hunter to her bedroom? Princess Lin's expression changed. Faye Mo nodded and said, Yes, we saw it with our own eyes. We don't know who that kid is. A man. Lin's eyes were filled with anger. She turned around and walked towards her bedroom. However, after walking for more than 10 feet, she turned around and glared at Faye Mo. Faye Mo watched as Lin disappeared. The smile on his face gradually disappeared. He turned around and looked at Polly. She was still looking around curiously. Faye Mo approached Polly and smiled. What's your name? Your Highness, my name is Polly. Polly hurriedly replied in a respectful tone. What do you think of this place? Faye Mo asked. Your Highness, this place is great. There are many things that I haven't seen before, Polly said excitedly. It was her first time here, and she was curious about everything. Then do you want to stay here? Faye Mo asked again. Polly was stunned and didn't know what to do. You don't want to. Good, you're ambitious. Men, send her out. Faye Mo kept his smile and waved his hand. Immediately, someone came forward and stared at Polly with a stern gaze. Okay. Feeling the pressure from the guards, Polly didn't dare to stay any longer. She could only leave the way she came. During this period, the guards kept following her. They were supposed to guard her, but they were actually monitoring her. Seeing Polly leave, Faye Mo smiled coldly and left the place as well. Lin entered her bedroom. Along the way, no one dared to stop her. Sister, I heard that you brought back a soul hunter man. Lin shouted as soon as she entered the room. You little girl, are you afraid that others won't know? Do you want to be louder? Let father and mother hear it too. Lin Yu's voice sounded from the room. Sister, you're not afraid. Why should I be? Lin directly walked in. She was originally angry, but when she saw the person on the bed, her expression couldn't help but change. It's that guy? What happened to him? Lin walked forward. She recognized Ziqin and was very surprised. What else could it be? What do you think I am? How can I casually bring someone back? Lin walked closer and looked at the unconscious Ziqin. After confirming that he was fine, she couldn't help but snort. This guy doesn't look like much. He's actually injured so badly. How embarrassing. Lin Yu looked at her. You seem quite happy. Of course I'm happy, Lin said gloatingly. Sister, you don't know how arrogant he was last time. He kept mumbling in front of me that he wanted to eat me. He only has himself to blame for today's miserable state. Then she turned around and looked at Ziqin. She opened her mouth and revealed her white canine teeth. Eat you, I want to eat you. Lin Yu reached out her hand and tapped Lin's head. You little girl, don't make a fuss here. Let him rest. I'm curious who beat you up so miserably. I must go and thank him properly. Chapter 4000. Princess Lin was very curious about who could injure Ziqin. After all, the last time they met, this guy was quite capable. She was very curious, so she sent someone to ask around. However, she wouldn't have known if she didn't ask around. The moment she did, Princess Lin Lin was shocked. She went to her sister's bedroom again and lowered her head to look at Ziqin, who was still unconscious, with a look of surprise in her eyes. Of course, she looked more like she was looking at a monster, as if she was looking at a human-shaped water monster. What's wrong? Lin Yu noticed her little sister's abnormality. This guy killed 9 of the 10 heroes of the soul-devouring clan. Lin Lin pointed at Ziqin and said, "And he's alone. Do you think he's transformed from the Sea Clan's water monster?" Since he could enter the canyon battlefield, Lin Yu guessed that Ziqin had advanced to the Earth Soul realm. However, she didn't expect Ziqin to be so strong that he could kill 10 of the 10 heroes by himself. Although the Sea Clan had always been neutral, they still knew the necessary information. Whether it was the 10 heroes of the Soul-Devouring Clan or the Soul-Devouring Clan, they were famous existences and were the best of the best. "Are you sure?" Lin Yu asked. "I asked someone to secretly ask around in the Soul-Devouring Clan. Of course I'm sure. It's said that the Soul-Devouring Clan sent many experts, including heavenly souls, to set up a trap to kill him. They even fought a decisive battle with the Soul-Devouring Clan at the One-Line Sky. They suffered great losses in that battle, but Ziqin, who was their target, suddenly disappeared." Lin Lin said, "Now, some of the Soul-Devouring Clan have begun to suspect that the Sea Clan saved him." Lin Yu looked at Ziqin. No wonder his injuries were so serious. It was a miracle that he could hold on until she appeared. She suddenly thought of Feng Yuze. It seemed that when they first met, he was also seriously injured and dying. He had an unyielding obsession and fell by the lake. He was similar to the current Ziqin, but clearly different. If he can fight so many of the 10 heroes by himself, isn't he ridiculously strong? Maybe he's transformed from the water monster. Otherwise, how can he be so strong? Lin Lin looked at Ziqin from head to toe and said, "Sister, why don't we kill him?" "You silly girl, what nonsense are you spouting now?" Lin Yu tapped the girl's forehead again. "I'm serious. Think about it. He's so powerful. If we save him and he wakes up, won't he know where our golden-scaled tribe is? What if he goes back to the soul-hunting tribe and attacks us?" Lin Lin said worriedly, or rather, he was originally a transformed water monster. Now that he's in our hinterland, won't he start a massacre after waking up? "You lass, you only wish for the world to be in chaos. Does he look like a big water monster to you? He's from the soul-hunting clan. Moreover, the soul-hunting clan is already busy enough fighting the soul-devouring clan. Where would they find the time to deal with you?" Seeing that Lin Lin was going to say something crazy again, Princess Lin Yu stood up and said, "Ziqin needs to rest. You should go back now. Cultivate well and don't let your little head think too much. He's been asleep for a few days and he still hasn't woken up. I'm really doubting if the news is true." Hearing her sister's words, Lin Lin pouted and left. As for killing Ziqin, she was just saying it. She wouldn't really kill Ziqin. In the next few days, Lin Lin would visit Ziqin every day. However, Ziqin still hadn't woken up. "Sister, that Feima is waiting outside again." On this day, Lin Lin said before she even entered the door, "He's like a shameless snake. That guy is so ugly. He must be a transformed water monster." Lin Yu shook her head. She was speechless with her sister. Let him be. Lin Lin looked at her sister suspiciously. "Sister, don't tell me you really like that playboy? He's so ugly. How could he be uglier than Ziqin?" Lin Yu patted Lin Lin's head gently. "Don't worry. We're different." "That's more like it." Lin Lin nodded in satisfaction. "I hate that guy. I've always hated him. If you really marry him, I won't come to see you anymore. Sister has been wrong once. There won't be a second time. Moreover, I'm tired. I won't think so much anymore." Lin Yu patted Lin Lin's head and said, "From now on, sister will always be with you. I'll be with father and mother." "Then wouldn't big sister be alone?" Lin Lin suddenly felt a little sad. Lin Yu said, It's good to be alone. After all, I've been sealed for so many years. I've gotten used to living alone. It's really good to be quiet and not think about anything. That won't do. Sister, you must be happy. Lin Lin looked at the unconscious Zichen. She rolled her eyes and said, Sister, why don't you be with him? Lin Yu was so angry that she laughed. You little girl, you're talking nonsense again. No, I'm serious, Lin Lin said seriously. Although I don't like Zichen, I have to say that he's very kind. Back then, he treated me like this even though I was a stranger. How could he treat his partner? I heard that when he found out that the Soul Eater clan had set a trap for him, his first thought was not to escape, but to let the others in the group leave first. In order to ensure that they could return alive, he did not fight his way out of the encirclement. Instead, he ran into the depths of the one-line sky and attracted the attention of the Soul Eater clan's main force. He was obviously going to fight to his death. It was only by chance that he was saved by our people. Just based on this point alone, this guy isn't bad. Sister is so beautiful. He must have been moved long ago. He's just too embarrassed to say it. If you're willing, you can just wave your hand and he'll foolishly come over. You little girl, what are you talking about? We've only met once. Zichen opened his eyes and saw the exquisite, glazed flower ceiling. His eyes were blank and he had not regained consciousness. I'm not dead? His last consciousness stopped at the battle with Alba. At that time he was already exhausted and relied on the revival technique to exhaust his opponent to death. After that, Zichen remembered that he had started to run. At that time, his subconscious kept telling him that he must not stay where he was. He forgot what happened after that. He seemed to have encountered water and fallen into it. I'm not dead. I'm still alive. Where am I? Zichen regained consciousness, and his eyes regained their clarity. At that moment, he heard a laugh beside him. You're awake? You should be thanking me. I didn't eat you this time. It was a familiar voice. It was a little tender and teasing, but Zichen could not remember where he had heard it before. Zichen turned his head and saw a little girl. That arrogance was still fresh in Zichen's memory. The little girl opened her mouth. I'll eat you. I'll eat you. Lin Lin, don't be rude. Lin Yu walked over and looked at Zichen with a smile. Zichen, you're finally awake. You saved me. Zichen asked, his voice a little hoarse. You can say that. Lin Yu said, how do you feel now? Zichen closed his eyes and felt his body. His injuries were more or less healed, but his soul power was still weak. Moreover, there seemed to be an inexplicable power in his body that was rejecting his body. It was this rejection that made him feel weak. Lin Yu said, there seems to be two types of soul power in your body. These two soul power are constantly fighting, causing you to be unable to wake up for a long time. One of the soul power is yours, while the other comes from somewhere else. They both seem to want to take over your body. Before you woke up, they were always fighting. Zichen also felt the abnormal changes in his body, but now that he was awake, his soul power could take the lead. I'm fine now. Why aren't you getting up? This is my bed. Lin Lin said unhappily. Do you want to sleep on it for the rest of your life? Lin Yu's face turned slightly red, and she turned her head away. Zichen thanked her again. He sat up and wanted to get off the bed, but his head was heavy and his feet were weak. He almost fell. Don't listen to Lin Lin. There are still many rooms here. Lin Yu went forward to support Zichen. A fragrance entered Zichen's nose. Thank you. Zichen thanked her again. Zichen, you don't have to be so polite. I'm Lin Yu, and she's my sister Lin Lin. You've met before. Now that you're in the imperial city of the Golden Scale Tribe, it's safe here. You can rest assured. Lin Yu helped Zichen forward a few steps and said, You saved us last time, so it's only right that we help you this time. You don't have to be so polite. Lin Lin said, We're even now. Don't say that I owe you anything in the future, because I didn't eat you this time. I'll eat you. Zichen looked at the little girl and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to have such a big appetite when you're so small. Lin Lin snorted and walked away. Not long after, more than 10 maids followed behind her. Each of them was carrying food. Obviously, they were preparing food for Zichen. Zichen sat down. He had just woken up and his stomach was empty. He really needed to eat, so he didn't hold back. Looking at Zichen's miserable eating manners, Lin Lin said unhappily, Hey, you're not a hungry ghost. Can't you be more polite? Zichen, who had recovered a lot of strength, said with a smile, I've been on the battlefield recently, so I'm used to it. Lin Lin emphasized, You've been lying in bed recently. You're right. Thank you, little girl. Zichen raised the food in his hand and waved it at Lin Lin. You're the little girl. I'm the one who announced it. You have to call me princess. Lin Lin protested. Okay, little girl. Yes, princess. Princess. Okay, little girl, princess. Lin Lin was so angry that she wanted to hit someone. Lin Yu covered her mouth and chuckled. Although he could move, Zichen still stayed in this room. Lin Yu, on the other hand, went to stay next door. On the bed, Zichen sat cross-legged and began to sense his strength. There were indeed 2 types of soul power in his body. One was his and the other was Alba's. Chapter 4001. Thinking back to the battle back then, when Zichen was exhausted, Alba, who had been tailing him, wanted to devour Zichen's power for himself, but he didn't succeed. It was also at that time that Zichen used his revival technique. To him, it was a flame of life force that could stimulate his potential and restore his body. However, when it fell on Alba, it became a poisonous flame that burned away his soul power and life force. At that time, there was also a power that appeared from Alba's body. It followed the burning flames and entered Zichen's body. At that time, Zichen wasn't very conscious, so he didn't sense it carefully. Now, it seemed that what happened back then wasn't an illusion. It really happened. Not only did Alba not devour his power, but his power was devoured by him. However, whether it was devouring backlash or Alba actively pouring his soul power into his body as a last resort, Zichen didn't know. He started to use his cultivation method in an attempt to refine this power that seemed to still have some consciousness. As Zichen mobilized his soul power, the power from Alba was being refined by Zichen bit by bit. Then it became pure soul power that replenished his own soul power. His soul power grew a little stronger, but Zichen still didn't know what caused it. It was just that it wasn't realistic to refine the power that Alba left behind in a short time, so Zichen still needed some time to fully recover. The next day, the first person to arrive at Zichen's residence was Lin Lin. This surprised Zichen a little. He deliberately teased her. I couldn't tell that you were so concerned about me. I'm concerned about your death. Lin Lin glared fiercely at Zichen. I'm here to collect your corpse. It seems very unlucky. May I know when you'll die? This little girl is really vicious, but Zichen didn't mind. He said, How's the situation now? What's the situation? Death Canyon. How's the battle between the soul hunters and the soul devourers? Lin Lin said, We are the Sea Tribe. Your life and death battle has nothing to do with us. We never interfere in any battle and maintain absolute neutrality. Even if you don't participate in the battle, you should have some information, right? What's the current situation on the battlefield? Zichen asked again. No comment. Lin Lin raised her head and said proudly, This is a secret. Why should I tell a soul hunter like you? After the last great battle, perhaps because both sides suffered heavy losses, they are currently in a state of truce. Very few people have entered the canyon, and they don't even have the necessary probing. Lin Yu walked in from the door. She already knew about this news, and it wasn't important, so it wasn't a big deal to tell Zichen. Although the sea race maintained absolute neutrality, they still collected all kinds of information about the two races. For example, news of Zi Chen's incident had long spread among the upper echelons of the Sea tribe. He had single-handedly killed 9 of the top 10 talents of the Soul Devourer clan. Just this battle prowess alone was enough to shock them. Now, the Soul Devouring clan still had not given up on looking for Zichen. They wanted to see him, dead or alive. Some of the Soul Devouring clan had even tried to contact the Sea tribe to get some information from them, but to no avail. The Sea tribe's neutrality wasn't just for show. Lin Lin was a little dissatisfied with her sister for telling Zichen everything so easily. A few days later, Zichen started to move around. Lin Yu took him on a tour of the Imperial City. The level of luxury here was an eye-opener for Zichen. His strengthened soul power took the lead, and the speed at which he refined Alba's soul power was significantly faster. Princess Lin Yu is very beautiful. She's not arrogant at all. She even smiled at me. Polly looked at her friends in front of her and said excitedly, "That soul hunter is the princess friend. I saw the princess trying her best to save him." A young man whispered, "Polly, is this the reason why you left your post without permission?" Polly said unhappily, "That's not the reason." "Xiao Guang, don't you believe me?" "Of course I believe you." The young man named Xiao Guang nodded quickly. "I believe everything you say." Polly looked at the others. They were all young men and women, and they nodded as well. Even though they had heard this story dozens of times, they were already sick of it. "That's more like it. The vice commander knows about this too. That's why I wasn't punished." Polly was very satisfied with everyone's performance. "Polly, you're lying again. What do you mean by entering the Imperial City? What a joke." A mocking voice came from behind and interrupted the conversation between Polly and her friends. Polly turned around and saw a woman from the Oceanic tribe walking forward. Behind her were 3 sisters. "Sharian, I'm not lying. What I said is the truth." Polly said unhappily, "I really went to the Imperial City last time. I even saw Princess Lin Yu." The woman named Sharian had a mocking look in her eyes. "Went to the Imperial City? Do you know that to enter the Imperial City, you must have a pass issued by the Imperial City? If you want to see the princess, you must have the noblest Imperial pass. Which of these 2 do you have?" Polly was momentarily speechless. She did not have either of these. Sharian continued, "Aren't you just trying to get away with your dereliction of duty? Why find such a lousy excuse?" "This isn't an excuse. It's the truth. I saved Princess Lin Yu's friend." Polly said anxiously, "I saw them outside the Imperial City. Other than Princess Lin Yu, Prince Fei was there too. I didn't need anything to see them." "Haha, what a ridiculous excuse. If you saved Princess Lin Yu's friend, it would be a great achievement. Why didn't the princess let you stay in the Imperial City?" Polly recalled what had happened a few days ago, when she entered the Imperial City and was outside Princess Lin Yu's room. Prince Fei gave her a choice and asked if she was willing to stay. She hesitated then. "Of course, that might not be a choice at all." "You said you saw Prince Fei. What right do a lowly person like you have to stand beside Prince Fei?" Sharian snorted coldly. "Now, just wait for the punishment of the enforcers." Prince Fei was extremely popular in the Golden Scaled tribe and was deeply loved by many girls. Every time he went out, there would be many rumors, such as how kind and humorous the prince was. Polly used to be like the others, silently admiring this prince in her heart. However, after seeing the prince last time, to be honest, she did not have a good impression of him. In the past few days, Polly had not told anyone that she had seen Prince Fei. Even in the exaggerated versions of the story, he was not mentioned. She only said it in a moment of desperation today. Everyone's expression changed. At this moment, they did not know if it was true or not because Prince Fei was mentioned in Polly's story. Sharian said indifferently, People like you don't deserve to see Prince Fei. I have already reported your fabricated excuse to the enforcers. I believe you will be punished." At this moment, members of the enforcers came from afar. The leader of the enforcers was the captain of the enforcers. When he arrived, he looked at Polly. "Polly, you haven't given a clear explanation for leaving your post last time. Come back with me now." Polly looked at the captain and said, "When I came back last time, I already explained to Deputy Commander Parson. The commander already knows about this. At that time, I was saving someone. The commander did not convict me." The man said indifferently, "You didn't give a detailed explanation. Moreover, we suspect that you are lying and deceiving the commander. Come with us now." Polly never lies. Everything she says is true. Behind Polly, the young man called Little Light from before walked out. "We all believe that she left the monitored ground to save someone. Moreover, she is a friend who saved the princess. Humph! Whether it is the truth or not, we will know everything when we return." The man waved his hand indifferently and said, "Take her away." A beam of energy flew out from the man's sleeve and landed on Little Light, sending him flying. After landing, Little Light vomited blood. He was injured. "What right do you have to hit people?" Little Light said angrily. The man's eyes suddenly turned cold. "You dare to sneak attack the law enforcement team. Do you want to rebel?" Everyone's expression changed. "You were the one who attacked first. You are framing us." Charlene stood at the side, her eyes cold. "How can such a person be worthy of Prince Tiffy?" In the golden-scaled tribe, the law enforcement team was second only to the royal family. No one dared to defy them. If they were really enforcing the law impartially, no one would have any objections. However, the man in front of them was Charlene's brother. Charlene and Polly were not on good terms. Once she was taken away by the other party, it would be difficult to come back. In these years, there were many cases where the law enforcement team used their power to suppress others. Little Light walked forward, his eyes firm. "I believe Polly's words. She never lies." A cold smile appeared at the corner of the man's mouth. "The law enforcement team is handling the case. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy." Little Light stopped, not daring to move forward. However, his eyes were fixed on the man. His other companions also did not dare to move. "Take her away for interrogation." The man waved his hand indifferently. Several members of the law enforcement team walked towards Polly. Polly stood there, her face pale. She did not expect that the law enforcement team would come to settle accounts after such a long time. Seeing that Polly was about to be taken away, the others were anxious. However, after meeting the cold eyes of the law enforcement team, no one dared to disobey. If the law enforcement team was handling a case, they would really dare to kill. At this moment, a voice sounded. "You are Polly?" This voice sounded very suddenly, but it was very clear. A black-robed, soul hunter male suddenly appeared here. When Polly saw the man, she was stunned at first. She felt that he was familiar. Then her eyes lit up and she said in surprise, "It's you. You are awake?" "Yes, this is all thanks to you." Zichen nodded and smiled. He asked, "What's going on?" "They are members of the law enforcement team. They want to take Polly away. They say that she left her post last time," the injured Little Light said. Zichen turned to look at the man and asked, "What's going on?" "A soul hunter dares to come to the Sea tribe's territory. Take him down." Unexpectedly, the man did not respond to Zichen at all. Instead, he planned to attack. Zichen was not angry. Something appeared in his hand, and he threw it at the man. The man caught it subconsciously. Then, a cold light flashed in his eyes. "How dare you sneak attack the law enforcement team? You are courting death. Men, take him and Polly, who colluded with the soul hunters to endanger the safety of the Sea tribe. Kill anyone who dares to resist." Zichen said indifferently, "Open your eyes wide and look at what is in your hand before you accuse me." The man opened his hand and saw a token. As the captain of the law enforcement team, he naturally recognized this token. Even if he did not, the word Emperor on it was incomparably clear. His expression changed drastically as he looked at Zi-chan in disbelief. "Greetings, sir." Chapter 4002. Such a scene was out of everyone's expectations until the man respectfully raised the royal token in his hand. Seeing the royal token was like seeing the royal family. The other members of the sea folk were shocked and saluted with respectful expressions. The woman called Sharian was extremely pale. She had clearly guessed the origin of Zi-chin, the soul hunter. Kneeling just like that? That's not your style. Zi-chin looked at the man. He said, "According to my past experience, someone like you should react this way after seeing this token. Forging the royal token is an additional crime. It's the death penalty of all crimes." "Sir, you must be joking. This is a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding." The man was sweating profusely. He was clearly frightened. "A misunderstanding?" Zi-chin looked around and deliberately paused on Sharian. "If I didn't appear in time, this wouldn't be a misunderstanding. Sir, it's really a misunderstanding. I came this time just to scare Polly. I didn't really mean to target her." The man looked up at Polly. "Polly, don't you think so?" "Yes, that's it." Polly quickly nodded under the man's gaze. "Tell me, is this a joke?" The man looked at the others. "Yes, yes." Polly's companions quickly nodded. However, Light hesitated and did not immediately respond. There seemed to be an inexplicable meaning in the man's eyes. Zi-chin looked at Light and asked, "Is this a misunderstanding?" The man also looked at Light. Light nodded and said, "It's a misunderstanding." Zi-chin said with a smile, "Since it's a misunderstanding, then forget it." The man finally breathed a sigh of relief. Sharian also glanced at Polly proudly with a provocative look in her eyes. The man came forward and handed the royal token with both hands. His expression was very respectful. Zi-chin said with a smile, "Forget it. It's fate that we met. I'll give it to you." "Ah." The man was startled and was somewhat caught off guard. Zi-chin patted the man's shoulder and said, "I'm really giving it to you. I still have many of these things. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm good friends with Princess Linyu, so I don't care about a mere imperial order." After that, Zi-chan ignored the man. Instead, he walked towards Polly. "Hello, I'm Zi-chin. Thank you for saving me last time." It was rare for Polly to blush. Little Light ran over from a distance and looked at Zi-chin vigilantly. As for the others, they all looked at Zi-chin curiously. Obviously, what Polly said was true. "Are you all Polly's friends?" Polly was a little reserved. Zi-chin looked to her side and asked her friends. Everyone immediately nodded, and then one after another they all seemed very excited. Many of them were seeing soul hunters for the first time. "I'll treat you guys to a meal. Is there a suitable place?" Zi-chin asked with a smile. Yes, let's go to Old Wayne's house. His food is delicious and so is his wine," someone immediately suggested. The others nodded in agreement. Zi-chin looked at these young people in surprise. "Are you sure you can drink?" "Why not? I'm 100 years old." "Me too. You don't look much older than us. If you can drink, we can drink too." They chattered excitedly and led Zi-chin away. The man still stood in the distance and didn't leave. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he didn't dare to. This fool really knows nothing about the Sea Tribe. He gave away an imperial order just like that. Shalian walked up and looked at Zi-chen's disappearing figure and said sarcastically, "Slap." A 5-finger mark appeared on Shalian's face. Shalian was stunned. She covered her face and looked at her brother in a daze. "Fool, do you think we got a huge advantage? What is this?" "This is an imperial order. Do you dare to take it if I give it to you?" Holding the imperial order in his hand, the man felt like he was holding a hot potato. He didn't dare to take it. but he also didn't dare to throw it away. In order to help you vent your anger, I actually provoked such an existence. This is going to be troublesome. Fool, you didn't even look at the cause and effect before doing something. The man took the hot potato and left with the other members of the enforcement team. At this moment, he seemed very worried. Old Wayne's tavern was opened in an extremely remote corner. The tables made of bones of unknown beasts had been polished until they were shiny and glossy. There were many people in the tavern, and business seemed to be good. Old Wayne was dozing off in a corner. All the customers were served by a young disciple. The tavern wasn't big, and the location was remote enough. Therefore, the auras of the Sea Tribe members who came here to drink were very ordinary. Compared to Bloody Battle City, the difference wasn't small at all. The young disciple didn't look very old, about the same age as Polly and the others. After seeing them come in, a smile appeared on his face. "Old Wayne, get up and pour us some wine." The young disciple's smile made Little Light feel a little awkward, so he shouted at Old Wayne, who was dozing off on the other side. Old Wayne rubbed his sleepy eyes. When he saw Little Light, he directly ignored him. He looked at Polly, his eyes shining. "Little Polly, you're here. Long time no see. What do you want to drink today? Go tell Aida and let him treat you. TSK, no matter how I look at you two, I feel like you're a match made in heaven." On the other side, the young disciple, Aida, smiled shyly at Polly. "Old Wayne, you old thing, don't look down on us. We're not here to drink your wine today. Someone's treating us," Little Light said loudly. The originally noisy surroundings had now quieted down. Everyone's eyes fell on Zichin. Although the Sea Tribe members here were all in human form, and Zichin didn't seem to be any different from them in terms of appearance, the auras of the two were completely different. Old Wayne also looked at Zichin. Zichin faintly nodded at him, then found a seat to sit down and said, "Bring me some good wine." Little Light looked at Old Wayne provocatively, then sat down next to Zichin. At this moment, he felt that he had gained a lot of face because he no longer had to look at Old Wayne's face and listen to that old thing matchmaking for his disciple. "Aida, bring the wine. You're a bit slow." Little Light pretended to be an old man and said. The others didn't say anything in the end because Zichin clearly didn't look like someone to be trifled with. Furthermore, since he could swagger here to drink, he naturally didn't have to worry about the enforcers. They were almost certain that this wasn't a soul hunter who had rashly barged into this place. Perhaps because someone was paying the bill, Little Light was very confident and his voice was exceptionally loud. After drinking a glass of strong wine, Little Light's cheeks flushed red. He looked at Zichin and pretended to be an old man, saying, "Brother, I really have to thank you this time. If it weren't for your appearance, the consequences would have been unimaginable." Zichin smiled faintly. Little Light picked up another glass of wine, took a big gulp, and said, "But there's one thing you didn't do well. You could have given the Imperial token to anyone, but why did you give it to Gabby? He's already so arrogant without the Imperial token. With the Imperial token, won't he be even more lawless in the future? No matter how many Imperial tokens you have, you can't waste them like this." Zichin said in a low voice, "Actually, I lied to him. I only have one Imperial token. Just that one." Little Light's eyes changed as he looked at Zichin, as if to say, "Are you an idiot? You only have one Imperial token, and you gave it to someone else?" The tavern's door suddenly opened, and a cold aura came out. Chapter 4003. A cold aura poured in, and the tavern immediately became silent out of fear, because everyone recognized the origin of the armor on the other party's body. Even the somewhat drunk Little Light became sober at this moment. It was a member of the enforcement team, and that was the enforcement team's armor. That fully armored being swept his gaze around, and no one dared to breathe too loudly. Finally, the other party's gaze fixed on Zichin, because his aura was too conspicuous. "Sir, are you here to drink?" Old Wayne left the counter and greeted him. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but when Old Wayne stepped forward, the cold aura disappeared. "I'm here to find someone." This enforcer walked towards Zichin and stood in front of him. The little friends next to him tactfully gave up a seat for him. "Treat me to a drink," the enforcer asked. Zichin shook his head and said, "I'm a soul hunter, and I don't have your currency." Light's eyes widened and looked at Zichin in disbelief. If not for the enforcer's presence, he would have grabbed Zichin and beat him up. "Without currency, how could you treat us to a drink, and even pick the most expensive one?" Polly, on the other hand, didn't care at all, but she was a bit nervous about the enforcer next to her, because she had vaguely guessed his identity. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Quentin, the current leader of the enforcement team." Quentin stretched out his hand and said, "You're really not going to treat me to a drink?" Gasps could be heard from all around. The leader of the enforcement team was a real big shot, and he actually came to such a remote tavern and even asked for a drink from someone else. Normally, if this big shot wanted to drink, he only needed to express a thought, and who knew how many people would rush over to treat him. Light was shocked by the other party's identity and was afraid that Zichin wouldn't say anything nice, so he hurriedly winked at Zichin, but Zichin didn't seem to notice. He was very anxious and looked at Old Wayne and gestured with his mouth, but Old Wayne didn't respond. In the end, Xiao Guang hurriedly said, "I'll treat you to the wine today. Drink as you please." Zichin turned around and glanced at Xiao Guang, giving him a very tactful expression, then continued, "You heard that right? I'm here to freeload the wine, so there's no need for you." He rejected the other party once again and did not shake hands with Quentin. Everyone was stunned. Even this was not enough? Wasn't this soul hunter a little too unreasonable? Little Light was so angry that he wanted to hit him. Why was his brain so muddled? Quentin didn't mind. She smiled faintly and said, "Then let me treat you to a drink." Everyone was a little confused. "What's your reason?" Zichin raised his head and looked at the other party. Surprisingly, he did not agree either. "You lost your things." Kuan Ting stretched out her hand and a sovereign medallion appeared. However, it was shrouded in light, so no one could see what it was. Otherwise, it would definitely cause an uproar. Zichin glanced at Quentin and said, "I didn't lose it. I gave it away." Xiao Guang and the others could not see the sovereign medallion clearly, but from the conversation between the two, they could guess what it was. All of them were extremely shocked. Previously, Xiao Guang had said that Zichin should not give away such a valuable thing so casually. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, the highest leader of the enforcement team would return the item? Moreover, it was clearly a gift, but this attitude was somewhat thought-provoking. "It's returned to its rightful owner." Quentin said, "On what basis?" Zichin looked at the other party. The conversation between the two confused many people. Moreover, everyone present believed that Leader Quentin should have never met a soul hunter with such a bad attitude. "On the basis of this set of armor on my body." Quentin pointed at the armor on her body and said, "I just came back from patrolling outside and heard your nonsense, so I didn't even return home and hurried over. My man is in the wrong, but he shouldn't be treated like this. If you want to punish him, I have no objection. But if you want to take his life, that's not allowed." Everyone was at a loss, including Xiao Guang. Only the intelligent Polly vaguely guessed the reason, and her expression could not help but change. At first, she did not understand Zichin's actions. Why did he give the precious sovereign medallion to Gabby? Could it be that he saw the threat in Gabby's eyes and tone, and was worried that Gabby would settle accounts later, so he befriended him? Now, she understood that Zichin did not have the right to give away the sovereign medallion at will. This was not befriending him at all, but killing him. Using the sovereign medallion to kill someone. He did not want Gabby to live. It seems that such a person in your team has a lot to do with your character. Zichin looked at Quentin and said, I think with your character, you are not suitable to be a leader at all. Quentin said indifferently, Why? Do you think this little thing has such great power? First kill someone, then cut off my future path? Zi Chen shook his head and said, That's not what I meant. Of course. There's no need for me to argue with you. Right now, I think he deserves to die, but you think he shouldn't. Who do you think should listen to? Quentin said without hesitation, Of course you should listen to me. Zi Chen's expression suddenly became serious. Are you sure? Quentin's eyes flickered for a moment, but she still said firmly, Of course. Did you ask for the details? Zi Chen asked again. Quentin said, The law enforcement team only looks at the results. Zi Chen nodded, indicating that he understood. He reached out and took the sovereign medallion. Just when everyone was still confused, Zi Chen suddenly moved. A tyrannical aura burst out, but it was restrained in an instant. Many people's expressions were a little absent-minded, not knowing what had happened. With a loud bang, the table in front of Zi Chen, which was made of the bones of an unknown beast, was shattered. It was smashed by Quentin's head, and wine spilled all over the floor. And Quentin herself fell to the ground at this moment. There was an uproar all around. Everyone got up and scattered, staring at Zi Chen warily. Polly didn't expect that Zi Chen would actually attack this person with such great power in an instant. She stood aside, her mind blank. Xiao Guang's face was also very pale, and there was even a hint of fear in his eyes. Usually, it was a matter of life and death to hit someone from the law enforcement team. Now that Zi Chen had hit the leader of the law enforcement team, wasn't this even more fatal? Quentin stood up, shook her head, and looked coldly at Zi Chen. Zi Chen smiled faintly and said, Looking at this matter from your point of view, it seems that you're right. Yes, I agree with what you said, and I also accept your apology. Quentin turned and left. Zi Chen said again, Please settle the bill and the compensation. After all, with my noble status, I can't treat people to drinks because I don't have the money to pay the bill, right? Quentin threw out a cloth bag, which landed steadily on the bar counter. There's a lot, enough for you to act like a tycoon. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.